Dugubo stretched, his joints popping softly. He scanned his small hoard of treasures, things he had kept and tended for years, then looked at Yu Qing's inscrutable smile. After a long, reluctant exhale, he seemed to reach a decision. Fine, fine, he said, waving a hand. His tone was part helplessness, part sincerity. Since you actually won that ridiculous bet, then according to our agreement, this ice and fire yin-yang well, from today on, it's shared between you and me. I always keep my word. Yu Qing's eyes brightened at once. He chuckled and leaned forward. Old Dugu, how generous of you. Since it's our place now, can I ask a favor? Dugubo eyed Yu Qing's sly smile and felt an odd twitch of foreboding. What is it? Tell me first, then I'll decide. Yu Qing rubbed his hands together and turned on an exaggeratedly benevolent smile. This place is perfect, but only a few people live here. Seems a bit wasted, doesn't it? I'd like to set up my own little force here, a small base. I hope you'll allow it. Dugubo's eye twitched. He knew nothing good could come of that. More people coming and going would mean noise and interruption to his peace. Still, he glanced at the three formidable women standing behind Yu Qing, especially Aru, who possessed 200,000-year spirit rings. In the end, he swallowed his objection. Do whatever you want. Just don't make a mess and don't disturb my poison research or cultivation. You can have the place as long as it doesn't bother me. Don't worry, don't worry. Yu Qing made an emphatic okay sign and promised solemnly. It'll be quiet and environmentally friendly. I guarantee it on my honor. Dugubo was skeptical, but too lazy to argue more. He snorted and strolled off toward his poisonous herb garden, hands clasped behind his back, out of sight, out of mind. Yu Qing, on the other hand, rubbed his hands together and began planning his grand base construction. The first problem was space. Dugubo's few small wooden cabins were barely enough for him, let alone Yu Qing's household of 6. Looks like I have to build something myself, Yu Qing declared, grandly resolved to make a warm, comfortable nest for his family. He was brilliant at spirit research and comprehension, but civil engineering had obviously not been one of his allocated talents. In the following days, the area beside the yin-yang well was a bustle of activity. Using his titled Douluo strength, Yu Qing felled trees, hauled stones, and leveled foundations with vigor. Duanxin, Zirui, and Aro helped by passing tools and using spirit abilities to process materials. Lingxin and Lingmao served tea and water and watched adoringly whenever Yu Qing displayed his divine skills. Soon, everyone noticed something off about Yu Qing's sense of architecture. A few days later, a uniquely shaped building rose. From a distance, it looked like a giant round mound, somewhere between a prairie yurt and a strangely proportioned dome. Up close, it looked even stranger, more like a deliberately stacked, oversized burial mound. Yu Qing had even stuck an oddly crooked metal rod on the roof, claiming it as a lightning rod and decoration. When the structure Yu Qing's labor of several days was finished, everyone fell silent. Dugubo happened to stroll by, froze, and then exploded into laughter so loud it seemed to shake the earth. Tears came to his eyes as he thumped his chest and stamped his feet, tearing away any pretense of a dignified titled Douluo. Pft! Ha! Madman Ye, are you preparing your own tomb in advance? Ha! One step into the grave, and you've already saved time. You're unbelievable. Dugubo's laughter was a release of all the shock and irritation Yu Qing had caused him over recent days. Yu Qing stood by his masterpiece and listened to the ridicule without blushing. He straightened his neck and insisted, stiffly, "You don't understand. This is art, back to basics, close to nature, containing the ultimate truth of heaven and earth." Duanxin and Zirui couldn't help stifled snickers. Aru rubbed her forehead in helplessness. Lingxin and Lingmao struggled not to laugh, faces flushed. Despite its odd exterior, the building at least sheltered them from wind and rain. Yu Qing bit the bullet and set to work on the interior decoration, where he finally showed some competence. Using level 1 to level 2 spirit tool technology and a few comfortable pieces from the system mall, he made the inside surprisingly luxurious. Thick, soft carpets, warm spirit lamps, large, comfortable beds, even a compact private bath. The warm, elegant interior was in stark contrast with the wild, unrestrained exterior. Reluctantly, the 6 women, Lingxin and Lingmo among them, accepted the new home. It was odd, but comfortable. Once they were settled, Yu Qing began his body and spirit completion plan. Every day, he prepared medicinal cuisine and therapeutic baths for Lingxin and Lingmu to strengthen their foundations and nourish their bodies. Most formulas were gentle tonic recipes aimed at correcting long-term malnutrition, stabilizing their roots, and preparing them for later cultivation and the eventual absorption of over-limit spirit rings. The sisters bathed daily in fragrant medicinal baths and drank Yu Qing's nourishing meals. Gradually, their complexions flushed with health and their bodies grew firmer. Duanxin and Zirui's prenatal medicinal cuisine never stopped either. Yu Qing was especially attentive to their needs. One night, after Yu Qing had served the two pregnant wives their prenatal medicinal meals and watched them drift off to sleep, Aru, who had been waiting outside the door, quietly pulled him into her room. "Aru, is something wrong?" Yu Qing asked, puzzled by her flushed face and fluttering eyes. Aru avoided his gaze and twisted her fingers in her clothes. After a long moment of fidgeting, as if summoning courage, she looked up. Her pink eyes held a touch of grievance and a deep, earnest longing. She whispered, "A Qing, ever since Sister Xin and Rui got pregnant, you've been busy taking care of them. We haven't had yin-yang harmonization in over a month. I want to conceive your child, too." Her cheeks were as red as apples. Her expression mixed hope and uncertainty. Yu Qing was taken aback at first, then felt a rush of tenderness and remorse. He had indeed been preoccupied and had neglected Aru. He stepped forward, gently drew her into his arms, stroked her hair, and murmured, "I'm sorry. That was my fault. Tonight your husband will stay with you properly. We'll have plenty of yin-yang harmonization, all right?" Aru beamed, nodded eagerly, and offered him a sweet kiss. Behind the hibiscus curtain, the night felt like spring. They were both unusually devoted, as if making up for a month of longing. Yu Qing was tender and passionate. Aru surrendered completely, returning his ardor. The most primal symphony of life echoed softly in the cozy room until dawn. When the night's passion subsided, Aru curled up in Yu Qing's arms like a contented cat, clutching his arm and smiling peacefully as she fell into a deep sleep. Yu Qing stroked her smooth back and looked down at her exquisitely beautiful face and alluring form even as she slept. A satisfied, happy smile spread across his face. A family by his side, beautiful companions around him. The future looked bright. 42. Yin-Yang, complementary dual soul core. A night of intimacy had been filled with extreme joy. Yet for a titled Douluo to conceive offspring, it was far more complicated than simply increasing frequency and duration. When morning came, Aru touched her belly. For a moment, a flicker of disappointment crossed her face, but it quickly softened into tenderness. She was with Yu Qing. Conception would come in time. There was no need to rush. Yu Qing understood without being told. He pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead and said nothing. Everything had already been said. After getting up, he didn't spend his usual long time compressing and purifying soul power. He ran a single cycle, sorting out the vast spirit power he had absorbed from last night's yin-yang harmonization, then began his daily routine, preparing medicinal cuisine for the household. The yin-yang power that had accumulated in him overnight, however, had other plans. At the temporary outdoor stove, Yu Qing expertly processed herbs and ingredients. A rich aroma soon spread through the camp. He prepared anti-fetal medicinal cuisine for Duanxin and Zirui, and a root-strengthening, vitality-replenishing soup for Lingxin and Lingmao, making an extra portion as well. Carrying the extra box, he ambled over to Dugubo's poisonous herb garden. Old Poison was squatting on the ground, carefully tending his plants. "Yo, Old Poison, busy?" Yu Qing called. Dugubo didn't even look up at first, grunting irritably. Yu Qing didn't mind. He handed over the food box. Dugubo finally glanced up. Seeing the box, he paused, then took it suspiciously, prying it open. Inside was steaming, fragrant medicinal cuisine, clearly made from high-quality ingredients. He sniffed, muttered, then eyed Yu Qing with more interest. "You didn't make this out of the goodness of your heart," Dugubo grumbled. Yu Qing smiled. "I figured you wouldn't. I brought it for you anyway." Dugubo complained with his mouth, but his movements were swift. He scooped up a spoonful and tasted it. His eyes brightened. The flavor and the effect were unexpectedly good. He chatted with Yu Qing while eating, and when the time felt right, Yu Qing's expression turned serious. "I'm going into seclusion for a while," he said. Dugubo almost choked on his food. He glared at Yu Qing and barked, "What? Where?" Yu Qing's tone was unusually earnest. "I need to go to the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Wellspring Eye. There's something I have to accomplish." After hearing the explanation, the playful look on Dugubo's face faded. He fell silent a moment, then waved a hand. His tone remained gruff, but he agreed. "Fine, don't do anything reckless, and if you die, don't come asking me to pull you out." Yu Qing rolled his eyes. "Don't worry, I'll be careful." Dugubo enjoyed the last bite, smacking his lips, then suddenly smiled a strange, crooked smile and added, "Bring me something good back." Yu Qing only shook his head in annoyance at the old man's antics. Back at his residence, Yu Qing told the three women about his seclusion. As expected, Duan Xin and Zi Rui reacted with worry and reluctance. Aru held his hand gently. Ling Xin and Ling Mo watched him with eager, anxious eyes, afraid he might leave and never return. "Husband, do you really have to go?" Duan Xin asked. "Don't worry," Yu Qing soothed, hugging each of them. He did his best to reassure and promise their safety, trying especially to calm the two pregnant wives. To Ling Xin and Ling Mao, he gave firm instructions: be obedient, cultivate diligently, and he would check their progress when he returned. With his affairs arranged, Yu Qing set his mind single-mindedly on his destination, the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well Spring Eye. The closer he came to the Spring Eye, the more intense and violent the energy became, a terrifying fusion of extreme cold and extreme heat. Standing by the spring, he felt the power that could affect even a spirit saint, and his eyes hardened with resolve. Yin-Yang complementary dual soul cores. I will achieve them here in one attempt. He took a deep breath, didn't hesitate, and leaped into the dangerous center where ice and fire merged. His body was instantly swallowed by red and blue spring water. The extreme environment pressed on him immediately. His left side felt as though it had been cast into a molten hell, every inch of skin and cell scorched by heat. His right side felt as if it had plunged into a 10,000-year ice cave, the cold so biting it seemed to freeze his soul. He dove dozens of meters down, a sharp discomfort slicing through him. He immediately circulated his cultivation technique, striving to guide the yin-yang power he had stored, drawing in the spring's extreme cold and heat. What came next was the most crucial and perilous step. Using his body as a cauldron, the spring's extremes as fuel, and the yin-yang power within him to open a second soul core in his dantian, forming yin-yang complementary dual soul cores. He carefully directed the yin attribute energy according to the system's deductions and his own understanding, compressing it toward the dantian. At the same time, the yang attribute energy slowly enveloped his original soul core, initiating a fundamental transformation and strengthening of it. The process was immensely complex and exhausting. He had to maintain absolute concentration, precisely controlling both attributes, both using the external spring water's energies for stimulation and preventing them from spiraling out of control. His mental force was consumed at an unprecedented rate, his face flushed crimson at times, pale as ice at others. Day 1, Day 2, Day 3, 7 days and 7 nights in total, Yu Qing remained submerged in the ice and fire yin-yang well like a meditating monk, oblivious to the world. His body became a battlefield as internal and external energies collided, merged, and compressed. Several times his aura fluctuated violently. Once he nearly lost control, which frightened Dugubo, who had been secretly guarding outside, enough that the old man almost intervened. Yet Yu Qing endured through sheer will and his profound foundation. On the morning of the 8th day, the energy fluctuations at the center of the spring eye reached a peak and then abruptly calmed. Inside Yu Qing's dantian, the scene had changed completely. The purple-gold star core, condensed from the star-horn demon whale spirit bone, still floated quietly at the center, radiating vast star power. But around it there were no longer empty spaces. 2 soul cores, one white and one black, slowly rotated around the star core like planets. The white soul core radiated a scorching extreme yang rigidity. The black soul core flowed with icy extreme yin softness. Their attributes were diametrically opposed yet perfectly complementary, forming a stable balance as they jointly orbited the central star core in steady motion. Yin-yang complementary dual soul cores, achieved. Yu Qing slowly opened his eyes. Red and blue light seemed to flash in their depths. He examined the peculiar configuration in his dantian and frowned slightly, but as he tested it with care, his brows relaxed. The pattern was unique, and the effect was astonishing. The two soul cores had formed an autonomous system, constantly operating on their own and absorbing external heaven and earth elemental power. His recovery speed had increased at least tenfold. More importantly, as the two cores orbited the star core, they naturally compressed and purified the absorbed spirit power, far more efficiently than his previous self-created soul power compression method, and it now ran completely passively, requiring no conscious effort. It's a success! It really worked! Joy surged up from his chest. Qing couldn't help but pump a fist, splashing spring water everywhere. Feeling the surge of incomparably pure, rapidly recovering spirit power within him, he knew his strength had risen to a whole new level. Chapter 43, Lingxin and Lingmao's Martial Soul Paths, Poison Erosion Build and Metal Burst Build. When Qing finally stepped out of the red and blue, interwoven spring of the ice and fire yin-yang well, and returned to the room, Duanxin Zirui and Aru rushed to him at once. Surprise and naked worry painted their faces. Only when they saw him safe, and with an aura deeper and more profound than before his seclusion, did they all exhale in relief. Husband, a Qing, are you all right? Three voices full of concern rang out together. Qing looked at them and felt warmth surge through him, a happiness that made his chest ache. Don't worry, I'm fine. Better than ever, actually. He opened his arms and embraced his three wives, feeling their heat and dependence. Back in the living room, Qing explained everything about his seclusion, the purpose, the process, and the results. When he mentioned yin-yang complementary dual soul cores, Duanxin and Zirui blinked in astonishment. They didn't catch every technical detail, but words like dual soul cores, spirit power recovery increased tenfold, and automatic compression and purification of spirit power were enough to show how extraordinary what he had done really was. Aro, as a titled Douluo, understood even more. Feeling the way Qing's spirit power now flowed, harmonious and unified but containing terrifying potential, her pink eyes shone with admiration. A Qing, you're incredible. This cultivation method, it must be unique on the continent, right? Qing smiled modestly. It was a coincidence, a rare opportunity, and the special nature of this place let me take the risk. Dugubo, pretending to study poisonous herbs nearby but actually eavesdropping, couldn't help moving closer. His green eyes glittered with curiosity and longing. Dual soul cores. Madman Ye, how does the yin-yang complementary system work exactly? Could you? Qing cut him off with a wry smile. Old poison, it's not that I don't want to teach you, but condensing yin-yang complementary dual soul cores is extremely dangerous. It requires a very high level of understanding and control over two opposing attributes, plus a powerful physique and mental fortitude. Your current physical condition. He let his eyes land on Dugubo's faintly green-stained fingernails. Spirit backlash and toxin erosion are your main issues. If you forced this, you'd have a 90% chance of dying. Dugubo's expression fell. He knew Qing spoke the truth. Qing quickly softened his tone. Don't lose hope. Besides the yin-yang method, there's a safer, reliable way to form dual soul cores called isomeric resonance. It may not be as overwhelmingly powerful, but it's steady and much less risky. Once your spirit problems are solved, I can help. Shiner, Ruyi, Aru, and even Lingxin and Lingmu can all try this type of dual soul core. The prospect reignited Dugubo's hope, and the three women, along with Duanxin, looked expectant. Dual soul cores, that was the key to reaching Super Douluo, or even Limit Douluo. After discussing soul cores, Qing turned his attention to the Ling sisters, who stood quietly nearby. 8 days of continuous foundation solidifying and origin cultivating with medicinal cuisine and baths had already changed them fundamentally. Their thin, withered bodies had gained a little flesh. Their skin shone, eyes cleared and brightened. Their foundations had been considerably strengthened. It's time to plan their future development, Qing thought. He had high hopes for these twin sisters, both born with top-tier body spirits. He decided, for now, not to add spirit rings to their eye and brain spirits. Those mental force-type spirits were too rare and too valuable. Adding spirit rings too early could stunt their growth. He would use their body spirits as the base, maximizing initial development of the eye and brain spirit's potential. When the time came, after their bodies were fully cultivated and their mental force refined, the earliest he'd let them add spirit rings to their mental spirits would be a starting point of tens of thousands of years. Then, the full mystery and power of mental force spirit masters would be revealed through them. For the present, Qing had prepared two completely different development paths for their body spirits. The first path, poison attack, erosion flow. This route emphasizes unpredictability and sustained corrosion, using insidious toxins to debilitate and weaken opponents while relying on a tough body spirit for close-quarters combat, sticking like a parasite to drain and destroy. This style aims to win through slow, unbearable attrition. The second path, metal burst flow. This road focuses on extreme defense, instantaneous explosive power, and absolute strength. The body is tempered like divine metal, peerless defense, and overwhelming force that can crush flashy moves with raw, immutable power. Qing explained the characteristics and future prospects of the two paths to the sisters, then stated solemnly, "The choice you make will determine your future fighting style and development. This is your decision." The sisters exchanged a long look, hesitant but thoughtful. Ling Xin, the older, calmer, and more meticulous one, chose the unpredictable poison attack erosion flow. Ling Mao, younger and more ardent with lively eyes, selected the fierce and domineering metal burst flow. Qing respected their choices and immediately began crafting detailed cultivation plans. Ling Xin's plan focused first on toxin adaptation and building toxin resistance. Qing would design a dedicated poison bath, tempering her with progressively stronger poisonous herbs so she could withstand high-grade poison attribute spirit rings in the future. And, in time, use toxins herself. Ling Mao's plan called for extreme physical tempering. Her medicinal bath concentrated on strengthening skin resilience, widening meridians, and increasing bone density, shaping her body for ultimate defense and the capacity to handle ultra-high-year metal and strength attribute spirit rings later on. The next morning, Qing borrowed 7 highly poisonous herbs from Douluo and prepared the first special poison bath for Ling Xin. Even Douluo, the old poison himself, watched with twitching eyelids. The liquid in the wooden bucket was an ominous deep purple with bubbles on the surface and a strange scent, part sweet fishiness, part rot. "Madman Ye!" Douluo barked. "Any one of those 7 herbs could poison a spirit king. You mixed all 7 together just to soak someone in this? Are you training a disciple or refining a human-shaped toxin?" Qing carefully controlled the proportions and order as he spoke without looking up. "It's for cultivation. This is the introductory poison bath I designed for Ling Xin. The herbs interact in complementary and restraining ways. It looks fierce, but it will form a special circuit in her body that both trains toxin resistance and awakens her body spirit's affinity for poison attributes. You're not worried you'll accidentally kill the girl?" Douluo still thought it too risky. Qing finished preparing and clapped his hands with confidence. "I'll be right beside her, constantly sensing her condition with spirit power and mental force, adjusting on the spot. Nothing will go wrong. Fortune favors the bold." Douluo's curiosity shifted to the other wooden bucket, the medicinal bath for Ling Mao. It was golden, with a faint metallic tang and a rich herbal scent. Compared to the purple vat, it seemed almost sedate. "Then why is the younger sister so peaceful?" Douluo asked, puzzled. "Different paths need different methods," Qing explained. Ling Mao's extreme reinforcement path requires steady infiltration and subtle transformation for a rock-solid foundation. Ling Xin's poison path needs stimulation and adaptation. Both aim to maximize the potential of their body spirits. Douluo nodded, thoughtful. He admitted he had little knowledge of body spirits. Seeing Qing's reasoning and detailed plan, he stopped offering unsolicited advice and muttered only, "Just don't ruin these 2 promising talents." The sisters then began their grueling medicinal bath regimen. Every day, the valley echoed with their suppressed groans. Immersed in the poison bath, Ling Xin felt as if countless poison needles pricked every inch of her, a continuous itching pain as she resisted the dizzying invasion of toxins. Ling Mao's experience was like being hammered repeatedly. Every muscle fiber and bone creaked and cried as they were driven toward extreme reinforcement. Qing never left their side. His mental force was highly concentrated, continually monitoring the subtlest changes within their bodies and ready to intervene or alter the bath at a moment's notice. His meticulous care and sense of responsibility made the sisters endure the unbearable and choose to persevere. 44. Planning for the ice and fire yin-yang eye. Since the sisters Ling Xin and Ling Mu began their painful but necessary medicinal baths, Qing's life had tightened into a disciplined, almost mechanical routine. Every morning he prepared medicinal meals for the whole household, then supervised the sisters' baths with clinical exactness. Like a meticulous scientist, he kept a small notebook, logging physical reactions, fluctuations in spiritual energy, even subtle changes in skin tone after each soak. Lingxin increased today's toxin time by 5 minutes, raised the potion concentration by 10%. Lingmo, how do your bones feel? Any burning? Good, that means the medicine is penetrating. Tomorrow we'll add Vajra marrow powder. He adjusted formulas and timing with precision, balancing maximum strain with maximum potential. Watching them grit their teeth, tremble, but never cry out and surrender gave him satisfaction rather than pity. Cultivating disciples was his priority, but another, longer-term task also demanded attention. After settling at the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well and getting Du Gubo's consent, Qing had Duan Xin and Zirui send a discreet letter to the family. A superb hidden base had been found, the cultivation environment far better than Icefall City, and relocation preparations should quietly begin. He'd warned them not to rush. The logistics of selling off businesses, relocating family members, securing migration routes, and negotiating with imperial officials and other powers would take time, and asked only the family's core leadership to start preparing in secret. Even with the yin-yang complementary dual soul cores condensed and his strength markedly increased, he wasn't content to stay still. Between supervising the baths and tending to his pregnant wives, he began planning the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Moi, well the way a master would. Standing in the valley's center, he felt the roaring tides of energy around him, heaven and earth energy so raw and dense it barely dispersed. It was unquestionably a holy land for cultivation, but its primitive intensity hid lethal dangers. Near the springs, the violent clash of searing heat and frozen cold made the very air corrosive. Not even low to mid-rank spirit masters, let alone those at Spirit Douluo rank, could remain there long without special protection. Prolonged exposure would erode them to the point of bodily rupture. Functional zones must be divided, safety first, he thought. For days he surveyed the valley like a careful geologist, mapping energy concentrations, geological structure, wind and water directions. He drafted a preliminary plan. The springs would form the center. Everything within a 500-meter radius was an absolute forbidden zone. No unauthorized person allowed to enter or even approach. The energies there were too extreme. Aside from him, Aru and Du Gubo, only the strongest could survive brief exposure. The ring between 500 and 1,000 meters would be the immortal herb garden. The energy there was abundant, but much milder, the soil enriched by the yin and yang springs for centuries. It was ideal for cultivating top-tier immortal herbs, fragrant silk exotic tulip, octagonal mysterious ice grass, infernal delicate apricot, strange velvet sky-reaching chrysanthemum, earth dragon golden gourd, and would be the power's core resource reserve, to be guarded with the strictest protections. Beyond 1,000 meters would be the residential and construction zone, almost touching the protective poisonous miasma Du Gubo had established. Energy there was superior to the outside world, but mild enough for living quarters, training grounds, and communal facilities. The remoteness, however, made managing and making use of the core area inconvenient. It felt like wasted potential. I need to expand the safe zone while tightly protecting the valley and ideally regulate the internal energy distribution, Qing muttered. It was a problem hardly simpler than condensing dual soul cores. Then, as if answering his urgent need, the Sundari System Mall in the recesses of his mind offered something during its daily update, a detailed schematic labeled Yin-Yang Dual Polarity Sect Protection Grand Formation, complete with diagrams and explanations. He devoured the blueprint. The more he read, the more his eyes burned. The formation was tailor-made for the Ice and Fire Springs. It could draw on the springs' extreme heat and cold as its core energy source and form a protective grid over a wide area. It provided powerful physical and spiritual defenses, illusory protection, and most importantly, actively regulated energy concentrations inside the formation while attracting external origin energy. Best of all, the blueprint suggested using existing natural hazards as the formation's foundation. Douluo's poisonous miasma fit perfectly. Fortune favors me, Qing breathed. The problem was implementation. Setting up the formation required terrain alteration and precise integration with the poisonous miasma. The only one capable of modifying that miasma was Douluo himself. So Qing took the blueprint and found Douluo, who was watering his poisonous plants with a suspicious-looking liquid. Old poison, busy, got something to discuss. Douluo didn't even look up, snorting irritably. Every time you flash that smile, it's never for a good reason. Speak. Qing handed over the blueprint with a grin. Do me a favor. Upgrade your poisonous miasma according to this schematic. It's for the family's future security. Douluo read it at first with suspicion. As he continued, his expression shifted. The cunning in the formation's design, its use of extreme heat and cold, and the way it could integrate with his miasma left him momentarily stunned. If it worked, the ice and fire yin-yang well would become an impregnable small world. But pride kept him from admitting it. He barked, "You madman Ye! Do you take this old man for your laborer? Do you know how big a project it is to change the miasma? Not to mention time and effort. How many of my precious poisons will you burn?" Qing had expected resistance and began persuasion. Senior Douluo, think. Once the formation is complete, not even a rank 98 Super Douluo could penetrate it without our consent. This is a deed that benefits generations. And think of Yan Yan. Wouldn't she be safer cultivating here? Mentioning his granddaughter hit Douluo's soft spot. Images of Yan growing up safe and happy made agreement instantaneous, though he kept his face. Humph, at least you have some sense. I don't know what's up with your head and its strange ideas. After their usual barbed banter, Douluo reluctantly accepted. Fine, for Yan Yan's sake, I'll work on it. But you provide all the rare formation materials, especially the poisons I need to integrate. If one's missing, don't even think about it. No problem, Qing promised, pretending to pat his chest while secretly rejoicing. With Douluo in charge of the most complex modifications and part of the formation's foundation, Qing, as chief engineer, felt half his burden lift. Soon the valley settled into a new rhythm. Douluo muttered and swore as he worked, weaving through rainbow-hued poisonous mist to adjust its distribution, intensity, and attributes exactly to the blueprint. Qing spent his days guarding Ling Xin and Ling Mao during their baths and hovering anxiously around his pregnant wives, Duan Xin and Zi Rui. And with Aru, deep spirit exchanges and emotional communication remained daily necessities. Time passed quietly in this busy, warm, slightly noisy atmosphere. Half a month later, under the constant tempering of Qing's custom medicinal baths, crafted at the cost of many precious herbs, the sisters finally underwent a startling, bone-deep transformation. Ling Xin's fair skin glowed with health. Her previously fragile frame had become supple and resilient. Her gaze grew calmer and more penetrating, as if she could peer into people's hearts. Her tolerance to toxins soared, and her body spontaneously developed a faint poisonous spirit attribute, making her physique more compatible with the path ahead. Ling Mao's change was even more pronounced. Her skin took on a warm, jade-like sheen and felt as tough as natural, soft armor. Her spirit was full and keen. Every movement carried power. Her strength, toughness, and raw power exceeded what a spirit master of her rank should possess, laying an extraordinarily solid foundation. After a thorough physical exam, Qing smiled in satisfaction. Excellent. Your body and spirit foundations are far stronger than I expected. He nodded. Now you're ready to absorb the first spirit ring I've carefully selected for you. The sisters looked at one another, eyes lighting up with bright, fiercely hopeful anticipation. After so much suffering and such long preparation, they were finally about to begin their true path as spirit masters. 45. Ling Xin, Ling Mao's first soul ring. Aru returns home. Qing's choice of first spirit rings for Ling Xin and Ling Mao was no accident. It was the result of careful planning that fit perfectly with the development path he had laid out for the two girls. For the elder sister, Ling Xin, who had chosen the poison attack erosion path, he targeted the nether scorpion. This was an extremely rare poison-attributed spirit beast, its whole body black as ink. Though not large, its venom was the deadliest among beasts of its rank. 100-year nether scorpion's poison could even threaten thousand-year spirit beasts. Its spirit ring would not only grant potent poison attack skills, but also deepen Ling Xin's affinity and control over poison. For the younger sister, Ling Mao, who had chosen the metal burst style, he selected the gold-devouring bee. This unusual metal-attributed insect looked as if its body were cast from pure gold. It fed on metallic ores, which made it exceptionally strong and heavily defended. Its spirit ring would grant powerful offensive and defensive skills and would fundamentally strengthen Ling Mu's physique, nudging her body's evolution toward a humanoid metal. Yu Qing carefully assessed the girl's current physical limits. Absorbing a spirit ring of roughly 700 years still carried risk. But after the special medicinal baths their bodies had endured, it was within their tolerance and promised maximum benefit. With the target set, Yu Qing led the eager sisters out of the ice and fire yin-yang well and deeper into the sunset forest. With his mental force as broad as the sea, finding specific spirit beasts had become simple. His mind swept the forest like an invisible radar and quickly locked onto the targets. In a dark, damp pile of rocks, they found a nether scorpion about 80 centimeters long. Its body was pitch black, the carapace throwing off a cold sheen. Its hooked tail was cocked and dripping purple venom. Wherever it passed, the earth was scorched and a rank stench withered nearby plants. Near an exposed mineral vein swarmed a cluster of gold-devouring bees. Yu Qing singled out the most robust, brilliantly colored queen. Its wingspan was nearly a meter. Its body truly seemed like solid gold. When it beat its wings, a metallic buzzing filled the air. Its compound eyes flashed coldly, and its mandibles looked razor-sharp, a creature not to be trifled with. "These are the ones," Yu Qing said calmly. "Both are over 700 years in cultivation. They couldn't be more suitable for your first spirit rings." Faced with such dangerous beasts, Ling Xin and Ling Mo showed no fear. Only a fierce determination lit their eyes. They nodded and drew the special daggers Yu Qing had prepared for them long ago, blades inscribed with armor-piercing and hardening sigils. Under the suppression of Yu Qing's hidden aura, the two spirit beasts grew sluggish. Without hesitation, the sisters seized their chance and leapt forward. Ling Xin's dagger found the gap in the nether scorpion's head carapace, and venom spurted out. Ling Mao charged like a leopard. Her blade flashed, and she severed the base of the queen bee's wings and struck its vital points. The two formidable 100-year beasts howled and struggled briefly before collapsing. Two bright, deep yellow spirit rings condensed and floated into being, their light rippling with inviting power. "Sit cross-legged, calm your minds, and guide the spirit ring energy," Yu Qing ordered in a low voice. The girls obeyed immediately and began to draw the spirit rings in. The process was agonizing. For spirit masters who had only just reached rank 10, the energy of a 700-year spirit ring was like a torrent suddenly poured into a narrow channel. Their bodies trembled violently, faces twisted with pain, beads of sweat forming on their foreheads. Yet compared with the medicinal baths that had felt like scraping bone and refining marrow, this agony seemed almost mild. They had learned to hold focus amid extreme pain. Relying on iron will and meridians hardened by the baths, they endured and painstakingly guided the energy into themselves. Yu Qing stood guard, his mental force spreading out to ward off any approaching beasts. Time ticked by. As the spirit fluctuations in the girls stabilized and absorption finished, their auras exploded outward. Their spirit ranks leapt 4 levels at once, shooting to nearly rank 15. They opened their eyes at the same instant, light blazing in them. Both felt the surge within their bodies and the clear, tangible changes. Ling Xin sensed a chill of poison in her spirit power she could wield as easily as an arm. Her fingertips felt hot with corrosive potential. Ling Mao felt her body grow heavier and stronger, muscle fibers beneath her skin seeming alloyed with an invisible metal plating, full of explosive force. They exchanged an excited glance, then simultaneously dropped to their knees before Yu Qing. Their voices choked with emotion. "Lord Yu Qing, we will never forget your kindness in nurturing us. From now on, we We will follow you and serve you forever." Yu Qing shook his head with a smile and helped them to their feet. "No need for that," he said. "You earned this through your hard work. Now go back and consolidate your cultivation. The road ahead is long." Back at the ice and fire yin-yang. Well, Yu Qing kept them from slacking. Judging by their new physiques after absorbing the rings, he immediately prepared another round of even more intense medicinal baths to consolidate their gains and to begin preparing them for their second spirit rings. He also officially taught them the blood-burning meditation method, a cultivation technique that efficiently built spirit power and strengthened the body, ideal for their current stage. That night, while Yu Qing lay in his room refining some hypotheses about secondary awakenings of body spirits, the door opened quietly. Aru slipped in, face complex with concern, reluctance, and beneath it all, a rare shyness laced with boldness. Yu Qing looked at her with mild surprise. "Aru, is something wrong?" She didn't answer. She crossed the room, and before he could react, gently pushed him down onto the bed. Her pink eyes shimmered with a determined tenderness. "Qing," she began in a soft voice that nevertheless carried intent. "Tonight, let me." Yu Qing realized her meaning and found himself half laughing, half moved. Seeing the unusual initiative and the flicker of unease behind it, his heart softened. He relaxed and let her lead. The night was warm, the air soft. Tonight Aru was gentle and passionate, as if she wanted to fold herself forever into his life. When the ardor ebbed, she lay against his chest and listened to his steady heartbeat. After a long moment, she spoke in a low voice. "Qing, I have to go back to the Stardew Great Forest." His hand paused on her back, then resumed its slow motion. He replied calmly, "I know. Are you going back for Xiao Wu?" "Yes," she said, voice muffled. "I've been away too long. I worry about her. I also have matters only I can attend to." She meant her ties as a 100,000-year spirit beast in the Stardew Great Forest. "So I must return." She hesitated, then lifted her head, eyes full of reluctance and longing, and kissed him again. Yu Qing returned her passion with a gentleness that matched his understanding. He knew this parting might last. In the morning, Yu Qing woke and instinctively reached for her, only to find cool sheets. Aru had already slipped away. Her faint, distinctive scent lingered on the pillow. He sat up, touching the sheet that still held the last warmth, and looked out over the dense mist of the ice and fire yin-yang well. "Aru," he murmured, as if speaking to someone leaving on a long journey, "be careful on the road. Come back soon. We'll all be waiting for you." With Aru gone, Yu Qing's pace of life slowed almost overnight. The valley settled into a relatively peaceful rhythm of cultivation. As the fetuses in Duanshin and Z-rooms grew each day, Yu Qing's care for them became increasingly meticulous. He forbade any activity that might disturb the pregnancies. Even the blood-burning meditation method he had taught earlier was suspended. Both women returned to their families' gentler meditation techniques. Everything was organized around prenatal safety. Most of Yu Qing's energy went to furthering Ling Xin and Ling Mao's cultivation. Within 2 days of Aru's departure, he had designed a new round of hell-level medicinal baths tailored to how the twins' physiques had changed after absorbing their first spirit rings. The potency of the new baths made Dugubo's eyelids twitch whenever he watched. From the poisoned Douluo's perspective, the energy and toxins in that liquid were so fierce that even a spirit grandmaster, or an elder soaking for long, would risk ruptured flesh or corroded meridians. But for Ling Xin and Ling Mao, who had already been relentlessly tempered, the baths were the perfect catalyst to unlock body-spirit potential. The elder sister's poison bath turned a deep, uncanny color. The younger's gleamed gold with a metallic edge. The girls writhed and transformed in pain every day, their physiques and potential improving visibly. Their medicinal cuisine shifted from consolidating foundation to aggressive stimulation and physical tempering. Every meal was loaded with concentrated energy. Those days flowed by quietly, with Yu Qing teaching the twins and tending his wives. Then he noticed Dugubo. Since the work on the poisonous miasma zone had been finished, that old man had been missing for several days. A few mornings later, while Yu Qing was supporting Duanshin and Zirui on a gentle walk at the valley's edge for fresh air, he ran into Dugubo, returning from the outside world. This time, Dugubo wasn't alone. A little girl of 4 or 5 clung to his side. The child had hair the same green as Dugubo's but paler, like early spring sprouts falling softly over her shoulders. Her face was delicate as carved jade. Her large eyes were bright and clear, emerald pools. She looked shy now, clutching her grandfather's hem, but it was obvious she was a natural beauty who would grow into someone extraordinary. Dugubo stopped, and, for once, a gentle elder's smile softened his usually stern face. He bent, lifted the little girl, and said softly, "Yan Yan, call him uncle." The child glanced at Yu Qing, then at her grandfather's encouraging look, and mustering courage said in a crisp, childish voice, "Hello, uncle." The sound nearly melted Yu Qing. He returned the smile and praised, "Old Poison, is this your granddaughter? She's adorable, much better looking than you." Dugubo didn't argue. He lifted his chin, proud. "Of course. Look whose granddaughter she is." Duan Xin, touched by the little girl's appearance, instinctively touched her own swelling belly, eyes shining with maternal warmth. "Husband," she asked softly, "do you think, if I have a daughter, will she be this cute?" Yu Qing nodded eagerly. "Of course, I love daughters. A daughter is a father's little quilted jacket. She'll be far more considerate than a stinky son." Zirui also looked at the girl with tender curiosity, picturing her own child, heart full of happy expectation. Yu Qing teased the little girl a little, then his mental force quietly swept the child and he frowned. His expression went serious as he studied her. "Old Poison," he said, "Yan Yan's physique, why is it so frail? Her foundation looks damaged." The light left Dugubo's face instantly. Sorrow and helplessness creased his features. He sighed, voice low. "Since Yan Yan was in her mother's womb, she's been eroded by the jade phosphor serpent spirit's toxins. She was almost born poisoned, innately much weaker than other children. Living this long is already a blessing. Over the years, if I hadn't shamelessly begged Senior Ye Shengxin of the 9-Heart Begonia to help time and again, I'm not sure she'd have made it." For all his habitual perversity and aloofness, Dugubo showed a sliver of vulnerability then. His wife dead, his son gone, and now his only granddaughter enduring poison day and night, with no telling how long she could hold on. The pain nearly crushed him. Yu Qing felt a surge of sympathy. Even a titled Douluo could carry such helplessness. He stepped forward, patted Dugubo's shoulder with calm assurance, met his eyes and said, "Old Poison, if you trust me, leave Yan Yan with me. I won't say I can completely remove the jade phosphor serpent spirit's hidden danger, but I will return to you a healthy, lively granddaughter." Dugubo looked up at Yu Qing's solemn gaze, then down at the tiny figure in his arms with those innocent eyes. Emotion warred across his face. Finally, he nodded, voice trembling a little. "All right, Yu Qing, I'm counting on you." Over the next few days, Yu Qing won Yan Yan's trust in his own way. He told stories, performed simple tricks, and used the power of life to warm and calm her. The shy child soon began to cling to him, climbing into his lap to listen with wide eyes. At the same time, Yu Qing laid out a conditioning plan. The medicinal cuisine and baths would be used together, but the emphasis had to be on gentle nourishment rather than the violent tempering he'd employed for the twins. More important was the careful, regular use of his power of life to guide and cleanse the jade phosphor serpent poison lodged in her. It would be a long, delicate process. Dugubo watched Yu Qing's care for Yan Yan with mounting gratitude and relief. Meeting Yu Qing in Nuoding City, he felt, had been one of the luckiest things in his life. That night, Dugubo came to Yu Qing's door uncharacteristically formal. Little Yan Yan rubbed sleep from her eyes and followed, drowsy. Yu Qing opened and paused at the solemnity. Dugubo's eye twitched. He lowered his voice. "Hey kid, in front of my granddaughter, can you give me some face and not call me by that name?" Yu Qing laughed and mimed, zipping his mouth. Dugubo led Yan Yan inside, closed the door, took a deep breath, and said plainly, "Yu Qing, I've come to ask a favor." "What's so serious?" Yu Qing raised an eyebrow. Dugubo glanced at his granddaughter and spoke with quiet resolve. "I want you to take Yan Yan as your disciple." Yu Qing blinked in surprise. "Why this sudden request? I'll still do my best to condition her body." Dugubo shook his head. "It's not just about conditioning. I want her to have a future beyond being bound by her spirit, to see broader sights instead of being shackled like her father, or like me. You're the most capable person I know. Your knowledge and methods go far beyond mine. I want her to formally learn from you." Seeing Dugubo's hopeful, determined eyes, and the small girl trying to stand properly though she didn't fully understand, Qing smiled and nodded. "All right, if you trust me with her, I accept." Relief and joy washed across Dugubo's face. At Qing's signal, though sleepy, Yan Yan properly performed the formal apprenticeship ceremony, 3 kowtows and 9 prostrations, and called in a clear child's voice, "Disciple Du Yan greets teacher." Qing accepted the gesture calmly, helped the girl up, and ruffled her hair. "Very good. From now on, you are my Qing's first great disciple. It's late. Go to sleep. Tomorrow teacher will prepare something delicious for you." After Dugubo carried Yan Yan back to rest, Qing stood by the window and watched moonlight dance over the ice and fire yin-yang well. He smiled to himself. His first great disciple was the poisoned Douluo's granddaughter. That was interesting. Chapter 47. Absorbing a 500,000-year-old soul ring and soul bone. Since he had formally taken Duguyan as his first disciple, Qing's days had become extraordinarily full, as if new vitality had been injected into his life. Although he had temporarily lost the pleasure of yin-yang harmonization with Eru, she had gone back to the Star Do Great Forest to fetch Xiao Wu, and couldn't enjoy the closeness of Duan Xin and Zi Ruyi while they were pregnant. The satisfaction of teaching a disciple was a different kind of joy. Watching Ling Xin and Ling Mao break their limits under his careful guidance, their physiques and strength improving at a pace visible to the eye, filled Qing with the proud contentment of a doting father. With little Duguyan, he took a different approach. Beyond the daily, repetitive medicinal meals and medicinal baths to nourish her weak body and gradually purge the toxins, he did not rush to teach cultivation techniques. For a child her age, Qing believed a happy childhood mattered most. He spent his time playing with her, telling stories, using the power of life to warm her meridians, essentially acting like a super nanny ahead of schedule and enjoying the cozy routine. Time slipped by quietly. 7 or 8 days went by in the blink of an eye. Qing had also grown thoroughly familiar with every detail of the yin-yang complementary dual soul cores. Although his spirit power rank stubbornly remained at the peak of level 96, he felt his actual combat capability had leaped forward thanks to their terrifying recovery speed, automatic compression and purification, and boosted energy output. Even without activating the desperate star-burning battle method, he was confident he could face and even suppress an opponent 2 ranks above him. That accumulation of foundation mattered more than a mere rank increase. On that solid foundation, he judged the time ripe. It was time for his second spirit, the Black Star Sinking Abyss, to absorb its first spirit ring. He sank his consciousness into the system space. The 500,000-year Thousand June Ant Emperor Spirit Ring, synthesized at the cost of a sea of yin-yang points, hovered quietly, glowing an awe-inspiring orange-red and sending out a terrifying oceanic fluctuation of energy. Merely sensing its aura made Qing's scalp tingle. He was curious what monumental transformation this ring, which defied ordinary age limits, would bring. That morning, after supervising Ling Xin and Ling Mao's hellish medicinal bath and feeding Duguyan a carefully prepared medicinal meal, Qing took the little girl by the hand to find Dugubo. Dugubo was surprised to see him come over. "Oh, is the sun rising in the west today? Aren't you supposed to be with your precious disciple and wives?" Qing smiled, handed Yan Yan to Dugubo, and turned serious. "Old poison, I need to tell you something. I'm going into seclusion to cultivate again. This time might take even longer than when I condensed my soul core." Dugubo frowned. "Seclusion again? For what? Don't tell me you're making something else that'll scare people to death?" Qing decided to be straightforward. "Actually, I have twin spirits." "What?" Dugubo's eyes bulged, and his voice shot up so suddenly that little Yan Yan startled in his arms. "You brat! You actually have twin spirits?" He stared at Qing as if seeing him for the first time, disbelief written all over his face. Twin spirits, the ultimate life attribute, 400,000-year spirit rings, self-created dual soul cores. Any single one of those would be earth-shattering on someone else, yet they were all packed into one person. Qing nodded matter-of-factly. "Yeah, is that so strange?" Dugubo opened his mouth, but for a long moment no words came. For the first time, he realized how wide the gap between people could be. He felt as if he had wasted his life on poisonous insects. Only after calming himself did he ask hoarsely, You're going to hunt spirit beasts for a spirit ring for your second spirit?" "No need," Qing replied. "I prepared the spirit ring long ago. I just hadn't met the absorption conditions until now." "Prepared long ago?" Douluo was stunned again. "Where did you get it? How old is it?" Qing's tone was calm, as if discussing something trivial. "I synthesized it myself. As for age, roughly over 100,000 years." 100,000 years? Douluo felt his brain struggle to keep up. "In this world, are there really spirit beasts that old?" Qing nodded and explained patiently. "Yes, I call them vicious beasts. They've cultivated for 200,000, 300,000 years, even longer, but most hide in the deepest life-forbidden zones and rarely show themselves." Douluo listened dumbstruck, feeling his worldview reform again. It all sounded unreal. "Then, where are you going to absorb it?" he asked. "The same place as before, the spring at the heart of the ice and fire yin-yang well," Qing answered. "Why that damned place again?" Douluo asked, bewildered. "The extreme cold and heat there can partially neutralize the violent energy of the spirit ring and raise the success rate a little," Qing explained. After leaving a stunned Douluo, Qing returned to tell Duanshin and Zirui. Though worried, their trust and support outweighed their fear. "Husband, be careful. We'll wait for your successful emergence," they urged softly. Once again, standing above the spring where ice and fire interwove, Qing drew a deep breath, his gaze razor-sharp and resolute. He leapt into the turbulent waters and hovered where the extremes met. With a thought, he pulled the 500,000-year Thousand June Ant Emperor spirit ring from system space. The instant the ring appeared, a terrifying pressure erupted. Orange-red light flooded the entire spring and even pierced the surface, tinting the sky above the valley. Douluo watched from outside, shaken, both amazed and intensely curious about where Qing had gotten such an unthinkably old ring. "Come," Qing commanded, guiding the orange-red ring to settle slowly onto the black star sinking abyss spirit. The moment the ring touched his spirit, boom! A mountain-crushing, river-boiling oceanic force surged into Qing like a primordial flood. Even a physique tempered by the Thousand Refinements Method felt tearing agony. Meridians, blood vessels, muscles, and bones seemed ready to burst. Tiny beads of blood welled through his skin, faintly tinting the surrounding water. The energy was enormous, wild and berserk. Qing frantically circulated the star meditation scripture to refine the tidal force, but it was almost beyond control. His meridians felt packed to the point of rupture. At that critical moment, the yin-yang complementary dual soul cores in his dantian sprang into action. The two cores spun with unprecedented speed, functioning like high-efficiency pumps that devoured, converted, and compressed the influx, greatly reducing the pressure and preventing spirit power exhaustion. At the same time, his life path advantage manifested fully. Vast, pure power of life flowed on its own, furiously repairing meridians, blood vessels, and organs shredded by the flood. Destruction and restoration waged a brutal, tenacious tug-of-war inside his body. The process was a cruel, new tempering of his physique. His body, long stalled at a bottleneck, began, through cycles of ruin and rebirth, to climb slowly but steadily again. One day, 3, 7, 10, 15, Qing endured like a living fossil, withstanding inhuman pain. Outside, Douluo and the women were anxious, but dared not intervene. At dawn on the 16th day, the last of the violent energy within the 500,000-year ring was completely refined and tamed. The magnificent orange-red ring now sat stably on the black star sinking abyss as its first spirit ring. Qing's spirit power rank advanced to level 97. Because he had compressed and purified his spirit power to a freakish degree, laying an alarmingly solid foundation, the vast energy from the 500,000-year ring had raised his rank by only a little over half a level. Qing wasn't surprised. After a brief respite to stabilize his surging strength, he brought out the matching 480,000-year Thousand June Ant Emperor right arm spirit bone and began absorbing it. Spirit bones mainly strengthen the body and grant a spirit bone skill. When absorption finished, his spirit power had crawled up only about a tenth of a rank, still far from level 98. Looks like using spirit rings and bones alone to sprint to level 99 would be much harder for me than it was for Tang San or the god of emotion, he thought, noting the limited yet significant rise. Still, he adjusted his mindset quickly. He had the Dao companion system, the synthesizer, and a group of extraordinarily gifted Dao companions and disciples. The future looked bright. Reaching level 99 and becoming a limit Douluo was not out of reach, just a matter of more time and accumulation. Besides, the gains this time were far more than a simple rank increase. The terrifying reinforcement of his physique and the mighty skills granted by the 500,000-year spirit ring and spirit bone had already vaulted his real combat strength onto an entirely new plane. Yu Qing floated in the mingled red and blue spring, eyes closed, concentrating as he felt the earth-shaking changes inside him. The majestic spirit power surged through his meridians like a tamed primordial beast, obediently moving as if it were part of his own body. This new force demanded control. The mysteries of his spirit ability and spirit bone skills had to be understood more deeply and turned into true combat instincts. As his mind sank inward, detailed information about the two spirit abilities bound to his new spirit ring washed over him like a tide. Thousand Jun Ant Emperor, first spirit ability, Thousand Jun 9 transformations. With a single thought, an indescribable, terrifying power erupted from his dantian and swept through him. Muscle fibers felt as if they were being reforged by an invisible giant hammer. Emitting a low hum, his bones clicked softly. Every inch of his body filled with an explosive, overwhelming force. This was not the gradual boost of a normal strength-amplifying ability, but a near law-level leap. Each transformation in the circulation of spirit power produced a terrifying 50% increase in strength. Yu Qing could clearly see that if he pushed to the 9th transformation, it would be a final bloom of 500% strength, power enough to shake mountains and stir rivers. Thousand Jun Ant Emperor, second spirit ability, Annihilation Ant Emperor Slash. Spirit power condensed at his fingertips into a streak of extreme darkness, a narrow blade of light that seemed to devour illumination itself. The surrounding space quivered in a faint, strained distortion. There was no thunderous explosion, only a cold blade that bent the structure of things toward collapse and nothingness. Fused into his right arm was the Thousand Jun Ant Emperor's 480,000-year spirit bone. Spirit Bone Skill 1, Thousand Jun Unbreakable Barrier. With intent, the air in front of his left arm and body seemed to solidify, and a dark gold light barrier covered in natural rock-like patterns sprang into being. It radiated a heavy, eternal aura, as if it had stood there since time began, indestructible and immune to every weapon. Spirit Bone Skill 2, Ant Emperor Sky-Shaking Roar. He had not actually unleashed it, but Yu Qing had simulated the terrifying soul shock in his spiritual sea. Not a physical sound wave, but a violent vibration striking the soul origin itself, capable of roaring down the stars and shattering a divine soul. Yu Qing let out a long, turbid breath. The breath lingered in the mix of ice and fire water, stirring tiny whirlpools. 500,000 years. Such power truly transcended the mortal limit. He moved slowly. His joints made faint, thunder-like sounds as the new strength integrated with his battle-hardened physique. After adjusting to the explosive increase, he leapt from the spring like a flying fish breaking the surface, landing lightly and steadily at the edge. Outside, Duanxin and Zirui had been waiting in anxious agony. They almost bolted forward when they saw his familiar figure, but Yu Qing's aura had not yet been fully restrained. The invisible pressure from the surge after absorbing the 500,000-year spirit ring rolled outward like a tide. The air thickened and grew heavy as if turned into an unseen barrier. Duanxin and Zirui, charging ahead, slammed into that pressure and were forced to a halt several steps away, their spirit circulation stalling. Even breathing felt difficult. Shiner, Rui, Yu Qing noticed instantly. He withdrew his outward aura with a thought and appeared beside them in a flash, slipping an arm under each of them. The suffocating weight vanished. Only then did Duanxin and Zirui catch their breath. They wrapped their hands tightly around his arms, their eyes brimming with tears as fear and worry poured out. "Husband, you secluded yourself for too long this time, 16 whole days without a word." Zirui's voice trembled. her fingers white with the force of her grip. "Do you know how worried we were?" Duanxin's voice was choked. She could not help but pound his chest with frantic little fists. "You're never allowed to take that kind of risk again. Absolutely not." Warmth and pity welled up in Qing. He drew his two wives close, stroking them and murmuring, all right, I'm sorry for making you worry. See, I came out all right, and my strength has increased a great deal." He glanced down at their rounded bellies with a soft, resolute light in his eyes. "Only by becoming stronger can I protect you and our children." He had to do everything he could. He knew that in the coming continent-wide war, the soul-stirring dual god war, even a titled Douluo would be little more than cannon fodder. A voice full of shock, lingering fear, and a touch of jealousy cut in from the side. Dugubo had appeared, clutching little Yan, whose face was drained in the wake of the earlier pressure as she clung to his neck. He stared at Qing, snake-like green pupils wide. "Yay? Qing, that 500,000-year spirit ring? Can you show it to this old man?" Qing couldn't help smiling at Dugubo's fear-come curiosity and his insistence on bringing his granddaughter for courage. He didn't refuse. With a thought, the black, star-sinking spirit reappeared. The magnificent orange-red spirit ring hovered behind him like a miniature sun, nearly a zhang across, radiating a warm yet awe-inspiring glow. It no longer flared violently, but carried a weight and majesty beyond the mortal realm. Its existence slightly warped the light and made the space ripple. Even under Qing's careful containment, Duanxin and Zirui felt a pang of trepidation and slowed their breathing. Dugubo bore it worst of all. His body stiffened as if gripped by invisible frost. All the poisons and tricks he prided himself on seemed meaningless. Only the instinctive tremor of a being overwhelmed by something vast remained. The jade phosphor serpent emperor martial soul in him let out a thin, fearful cry. His spirit circulation nearly stopped and cold sweat burst out on his forehead. He felt like a small boat on a raging sea, fragile and liable to be crushed at any moment by that colossal power. This pressure exceeded anything in his lifetime's knowledge or imagination. Withdraw it quickly." Dugubo's face drained of color, and his voice came out dry and rasping as he waved his hands wildly. Qing thought, and the spirit and ring vanished. The terrifying pressure dissipated. The valley breeze seemed to dare to move again only then. Dugubo gasped as if pulled from water, staring at Qing, whose aura had settled as if he'd displayed a toy, with a complicated look of shock, horror, and dazed awe that finally spilled out in a long, exhausted sigh. "Monster, you child, you are simply a monster who shouldn't exist in this world." He hugged his granddaughter tighter, but in the depth of his eyes, a flicker of indescribable relief showed. Fortunately, this monster was Yan's teacher. Duanxin watched the vanishing spirit ring and couldn't help asking, curiosity bright in her beautiful eyes, "Husband, where did you get such a terrifying spirit ring? You never mentioned it before." Qing's gaze deepened, and a private smile curved his lips. He began the explanation he had long since prepared. "Do you remember the 3,000 June Ant Emperors?" he asked. "Of course we remember," Zirui replied. "But weren't those 300,000-year spirit rings?" "Correct." Qing's voice lowered and gained a strange, compelling gravity. "But do you know what the horizon looks like at the end of a spirit master's path?" Duanxin and Zirui both shook their heads. "Rank 100 is no mere legend. That supreme level is called God." His words carried an echo of some law. Beyond the Douluo Continent, at the very peak of heavens mortals cannot reach, there exists a domain called the God Realm. It's where beings above rank 100 reside. The angel god Spirit Hall has worshipped for generations is not a baseless rumor. He looked at thoughtful Dugubo, who inhaled sharply, voice trembling. "You mean?" "Yes." Qing nodded solemnly, awe and pride mingled in his tone. "The bet I made with Old Poison and my leaving then, both were to undergo an extremely difficult god trial. As one of the rewards for passing, those 3 spirit rings, which were originally 300,000-year rings, were fused and tempered under the supreme power of the divinity and finally sublimated into what you just saw, a 500,000-year spirit ring." He attributed the synthesizer, a system reward in truth, to that elusive, unquestionable god trial. Duanxin and Zirui were shaken to the core. Their eyes shone with shock, wonder, and a yearning for that mysterious domain. Then, husband, Zirui breathed, excitement trembling in her voice. In the future, can you really become a god? Yuqing looked at his two wives, then softly to the bellies where new life stirred. His eyes were steady and decisive as he spoke each word with the force of a vow. That is certain. When I ascend to the god position, our children will grow up safe and carefree beneath the radiance of the divine realm. Back in their simple, warm wooden house, Yuqing carefully examined his pregnant wives. He found, with pleasant surprise, that under the steady nourishment of abundant energy and life resonance from the fetuses, Duanxin had quietly reached rank 60 bottleneck. Though Yuqing forbade her from absorbing any spirit ring now, the increase was undeniable. Zirui had also risen one rank to rank 64. Ling Xin and Ling Mao had not idled while he secluded himself. With the blood-burning meditation method and new medicinal baths, both had steadily advanced to rank 15, gratifying progress. As night deepened, Yuqing sat on the bed's edge. His palms glowed softly with life-giving light as he placed them on Duanxin and Zirui's bellies, performing the daily prenatal education. By the way, he asked casually while keeping his spirit power fluctuations gentle, how is the family relocation going? A trace of helplessness crossed Duanxin's face. The opposition within the family is loud. Many elders and branches refuse to give up their base in Icefall City. They're fearful and doubtful about moving deep into an unknown forest. In the end, only about 35 people were truly willing to follow Father here. Zirui sighed. The Z family's situation is a bit better, but counting guards and core members who are determined to move, there are only 43. They handed him two thin lists. The dense names on them added up to fewer than 80. Yuqing's gaze swept the names. Each one carried weighty trust and a choice. I see, he said simply, holding the lists near the candlelight. The orange flame licked the paper edges, turning them to curled ash that drifted down. Duanxin and Zirui looked at him, puzzled. Yuqing gently squeezed their hands, his gaze seeming to pierce the stone walls and reach out across the valley to the Douluo Continent beyond, toward the dangerous future. 80 people, small in number, but enough as a core spark. Chapter 49, A Ru's Secret Plan for Yuqing. The exact number of people who would relocate from the Duan and Z families, 30, 50, or fewer, wasn't the point. The numbers themselves were meaningless. What mattered was turning every person who trusted him enough to step into the unknown, into a powerhouse who could stand on their own and maybe, one day, support an entire region. He had already asked Duanxin and Zirui about the family's talents. As he expected, apart from the two sisters themselves, very few in either clan had innate spirit power beyond rank 5. The family's foothold in Icefall City owed more to luck. Their grandfather's generation had produced a spirit emperor. From Yuqing's present vantage, that might not sound like much, but across the vast Douluo Continent, in remote cities like Icefall, a spirit emperor was a major figure, enough to safeguard a family's prosperity for decades. When my two fathers-in-law arrive, I'll give them a real gift, he thought, as the outline of a plan that could change the family's destiny quietly took shape. For now, he set aside the logistics of migration. The priority was to nurture the young talents around him. Days passed in a steady routine. Yuqing's time was divided into 3 parts, gently but persistently conditioning little Dugu Yan's body and drawing out the jade phosphor serpent poison that had seeped into her marrow, systematically teaching Ling Xin and Ling Mao about spirits, spirit beasts, and basic combat theory, and above all, caring for his 2 pregnant wives. A month slipped by in that steady rhythm. Dugubo was the first to notice the startling change in his granddaughter. The child who used to gasp and grow pale after a few steps now ran through the valley like a forest deer. Her bright laughter echoed, and her cheeks finally had a healthy glow. The famed titled Douluo, known across the world for his poisons, felt his eyes sting as he watched her thriving. He owed an immeasurable debt of gratitude to Yuqing. Of course, when he saw Yuqing, his mouth was still as sharp as ever, calling him Old Man Dugu and Old Poison, with no hesitation, and Yuqing taunted him back. The barbed banter kept any distance from that 500,000-year spirit ring and Yuqing's god trial candidate status at bay. They were mentor and friend in equal measure. One peaceful night, Yuqing's palms glowed a gentle, vibrant emerald as he hovered them over the clearly bulging bellies of Duanxin and Zirui. Pure life force, warm and steady like a spring stream, flowed into both mothers and their fetuses. He did this for half an hour each night, painstakingly attentive. Zirui sighed, part helplessness, part happiness. Husband, you don't have to spend such pure life force on us every day. It's too draining. Yuqing chuckled without withdrawing his hands. It's not draining. Keeping you and the babies perfectly safe is the most important thing to me. Duanxin reclined like a contented cat, half-lidded. Feeling the surge of life within her and a vague, private longing, she teased in a slightly seductive tone. After eating those prenatal meals of yours every day, we feel strong enough to go through 2 rounds of hot battle with you without a problem. She emphasized hot battle, cheeks coloring as she cast Yuqing a meaningful look. The life force in Yuqing's hands wavered, his face reddened, and he cleared his throat twice. He understood what she meant. He hadn't shared intimate dual cultivation with them for over 2 months, and some pressure had certainly built up. Ahem, just to be safe, he blurted, then quickly changed the subject, anxious to steer them away from a conversation unsuitable for children. By the way, where is the migration group now? Duanxin's eyes danced at his embarrassment, but she stopped teasing. We got a letter from Father the day before yesterday. The main group has safely entered Dying Province's borders in the Heaven Do Empire. With families in tow, they're traveling slowly. They'll need at least another half-month to reach the outskirts of the Sunset Forest. Yuqing nodded, though his thoughts drifted. It had been nearly 2 months since Aru left the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well. The core area of the Stardew Great Forest was more than 10,000 miles away. Even a titled Douluo's round trip would take time. He couldn't help wondering how she was faring. Had she found Xiaowu? Was everything all right? A faint warmth of longing and worry spread through him as he pictured Aru's charming smile and remembered their yin-yang harmonization. His heart, already stoked by his wife's teasing, kindled anew. On the outskirts of the Stardew Great Forest's mixed zone, a pink figure flitted through the trees like a ghost. Long travel had left her face a little tired, but her pink eyes were bright and urgent. She was eager to see her family and, secretly, one person in particular. Aru had been racing back without pause. Spotting the familiar forest entrance ahead, thick with primitive, ancient aura, she slowed and breathed a long, relieved sigh. Finally back, she murmured, a soft, expectant smile lifting one corner of her mouth. A Qing, I hope you'll like the surprise I brought. She vanished into the jungle, her aura folding into the forest as she sped toward the Lake of Life. The clearing by the lake was peaceful. The massive sky azure bull python lay mostly submerged. The titan giant ape sat by the shore like a small mountain, and a little girl in pink was tiptoeing across the grass, Xiaowu trying to sneak away. Aru's arrival shattered the quiet. "Xiaowu!" she cried, half stern, half playful. Xiaowu froze, then turned, plastered on a sheepish smile, and stammered, Mama, you're back." Aru appeared in an instant and tapped the girl lightly on the forehead. "Didn't I tell you to stay near the Lake of Life and not wander off? How long have you been gone?" Xiaowu's head drooped. She nervously twisted her skirt hem and shuffled her toes in the grass. "I didn't run away. I was just playing nearby." The guilty though defiant look made Aru's irritation soften into fond exasperation. At that moment, Daming, the sky azure bull python, spoke in a deep, measured voice that eased the mood. "Aunt Ru, you're back. Was everything successful on your trip? How did that human treat you?" His massive eyes showed a trace of concern and a wariness reserved for humans. At the name Yuqing, any sternness vanished from Aru's face and a smile flooded her features. Her aura flowed freely. "He treated me very well, and by following him, my strength has improved a great deal." The sudden rise in spirit pressure, approaching rank 96, even as she deliberately restrained it, made both Daming and Erming's massive bodies tremble. The 2 spirit beast kings' eyes widened. In just half a year, Aru's strength had climbed so far. Who was this human? Xiaowu, still half escaped from her mother's admonitions, blinked and asked, "Now that you're here and I'm okay, when are you leaving?" Aru's expression hardened with resolution. She flicked Xiaowu's forehead lightly so the child squealed and curled up, rubbing it. Leave. Of course I'm leaving, she said, but this time I'm not going alone. Xiaowu, get ready. You're coming with me. We're leaving the Stardow Great Forest. No, Mama. I don't want to leave. I don't want to be separated from Da Ming and Ming. Xiaowu wailed, eyes huge. Ming thumped his chest and boomed. Aunt Ru, really taking Xiaowu away? It's too dangerous outside. Da Ming's tone was steadier but uneasy. Aunt Ro, are you sure? The human world isn't a paradise for us. Ru's gaze, however, was resolute and full of trust. She looked at the two spirit beast kings and spoke solemnly. Da Ming, Ming, I know your worries, but I must take Xiaowu. A Qing is not only powerful, his knowledge of spirits and cultivation runs deep. He's a master at nurturing talent and teaching according to each student's needs. I want Xiaowu to learn by his side. That's far better for her future than sheltering her here forever. Her eyes shone with conviction and an unreserved faith in Qing so bright it left Da Ming momentarily dazed. After a long silence, the bull python said in a low, heavy voice, If Aunt Ru is so certain, I trust your judgment. When do you plan to go? Ru shook her head. Not yet. Before we leave, I need to find an old friend. An old friend? Da Ming's massive eyes flickered with curiosity. In the Stardow Great Forest, what kind of old friend did Aunt Ru mean? Ru narrowed her pink eyes, her voice soft but sharp. Yes, I need to find the three-eyed demon fox. There was an edge to her words, meaning beyond the name. Chapter 50, Three-Eyed Fox. A puzzled look creased the lake-dark pupils of Sky Azure Bull Python. Aunt Ru, do you mean that 100,000-year three-eyed demon fox that lives deep in Demon Fox Forest? Ru nodded calmly. Yes, that one. His confusion deepened. But you two were never close. You even had old grudges. You're going there on purpose. Is this for revenge? His voice carried uncertainty. Ru laughed, a soft, amused sound. Revenge? Is your Aunt Ru such a petty creature? That was ancient history. Then why? Sky Azure Bull Python trailed off, baffled. It couldn't imagine any motive beyond settling scores. A mischievous glint lit Ru's pink eyes. A secretive smile curved her lips. That, I can't tell you yet. She left them dangling on purpose. Little Xiaowu's ears perked. She rolled her big eyes and caught her mother's tone like a dog smelling a plan. Already, a new scheme was forming in her head. Mothers know their daughters. Even without looking, Ru could tell what Xiaowu was thinking. Calm but authoritative, she issued orders to the two spirit beast kings. While I'm away visiting Three-Eyed Demon Fox, you two watch this little imp like hawks. If she leaves, you'll answer to me when I get back. Titan Giant Ape thumped his chest, voice booming. Don't worry, Aunt Ro. I'll keep Sister Xiaowu from leaving the Lake of Life. She won't step half a pace away. Sky Azure Bull Python nodded solemnly. We won't lose sight of her. No, Xiaowu wailed theatrically, face crumpling. Her budding plot had been strangled before it began. Ru flicked a slim finger and tapped the girl's forehead, hard enough to make Xiaowu yelp and squat clutching her head, but not enough to hurt. Wait obediently. Mummy will be back soon. With that, she blurred into a streak of pink light and vanished into the surrounding forest. She headed straight for Demon Fox Forest, the foxfolk gathering place deep within Stardew Great Forest, and the domain of the 100,000-year three-eyed demon fox. After most of a day, she reached the forest edge. She didn't hide. Instead, she unleashed her aura without reserve, an immense pressure befitting a level 96 titled Douluo. The storm of power rippled out, sending countless spirit beasts inside quivering. Step by slow step, Ru advanced toward the forest's heart. Her force parted trees and underbrush as if she were a tide. 10 minutes later, a white shape materialized beneath an ancient tree up ahead. A snow-white fox, immaculate and graceful rather than massive, turned to view her. 3 fluffy tails swayed behind it. The most striking feature was a vertical, tightly closed eye-like marking on its forehead. Crimson aura rolled from its body, undeniable proof it was a 100,000-year spirit beast. This was the sovereign of Demon Fox Forest, the three-eyed demon fox, fox consort. Its narrow fox eyes watched Ru warily. Soft-boned demon rabbit? It asked coolly, guarded. The power Ru radiated told it she was far stronger than at their last meeting, and its heart trembled. Ru smiled, voice familiar. Long time no see, fox consort. Suspicion didn't ease. You stomp into my territory, releasing that power. What do you want? Aru didn't dodge. Any interest in taking human form and leaving Demon Fox Forest with me? Take human form? Contempt curled Fox Consort's features. Humph. I'm not you. You feared death when facing a mere great limit and turned yourself into a fragile human to keep living. Aru expected the taunt. If words wouldn't persuade this proud fox, only force would prove the truth. Since you won't listen to reason, we'll do it the old way. Her tone sharpened. I'll beat you until you submit. Before Fox Consort could react, Aru vanished, startled swan steps, and reappeared above her. A graceful, downward chop descended with terrifying force. Fox Consort's three tails snapped up and the vertical eye on its forehead opened, firing a gray beam that distorted space. The beam had been devastating in the past. Now it broke against Aru as if it were glass. The chop landed square on the foreleg the fox had raised to block. Bang! An irresistible force hurled Fox Consort through ancient trunks. It skidded to a painful halt, chi and blood churning inside. Shock and dismay filled its eyes. How had Aru leapt so far in strength? Aru's assault came like a storm of pink afterimages. Fists, palms, fingers, kicks, each strike packed with overwhelming power and skilled precision, hemming in every avenue of counterattack. Where once Fox Consort had dominated, now she was utterly on the back foot. Her mental illusions made barely a dent in Aru's defenses. Her physical attacks were outclassed. In the time it took to burn a stick of incense, Fox Consort's snowy fur was smeared with dust, and she could only guard, too spent to retaliate. Stop! Enough! Fox Consort finally cried, voice edged with humiliation. I concede. Aru stepped back lightly, breathing as if she'd merely warmed up. Fox Consort, panting and stunned, stared. How? How could your strength rise so fast? Aru smiled and revealed the truth with a thought. 9 spirit rings pulsed into being beneath her. Violet, 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 black, 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 red, red. The extraordinary configuration, especially the twin red rings blazing like blood suns, pricked at Fox Consort's eyes. Your spirit ring configuration? How? Aren't you a human spirit master with the usual setup? Fox Consort's voice cracked with disbelief. In her 100,000-year life, she had never seen such a combination. Aru savored the look of disarray and then offered fresh temptation. Now, interested? If you agree to become human, I'll tell you how to obtain such a configuration. Fox Consort lay sprawled on the ground, mind in turmoil. On one side was the immovable weight of a 100,000-year limit. On the other, the new possibility Aru offered, a path to greater power. Taking human form would no longer be only survival, it might be an ascent. The choice was devastating. Aru waited without pushing. Half an hour later, Fox Consort, drained, lifted her head. Her narrow eyes shone with complexity. If you truly can give me such a spirit ring configuration, then I choose transformation. Aru smiled inwardly and outwardly. Of course, I guarantee it. Her plan was seamless. Duanxin and Zirui were both pregnant. Aru was the only sister left who could share Yu Qing's astonishing firepower. Yin-yang harmonization had left her craving more, and sometimes she couldn't shoulder the cultivation alone. She wanted an ally, someone who could support Yu Qing in yin-yang dual cultivation and become a pillar of their future strength. The three-eyed demon fox, female, ancient, supremely talented, and beautiful, was perfect. Fox Consort returned to her lair, warned her clan to stay within Demon Fox Forest unless absolutely necessary, and made Aru swear on her soul that Titan Giant Ape and Sky Azure Bull Python would protect the tribe. Then she began her transformation. Vast energy rippled, light flared. When the radiance faded, a girl of about 16 stood before Aro in a snowy gauze gown that seemed woven from moonlight. Her skin outshone the frost, her figure was perfectly curved. Silver hair fell to her waist, and her slightly upturned, narrow fox eyes held irresistible allure and a peculiar, innocent clarity beneath the seduction, a combination that could unbalance any man. I'm still in the early stage of transformation, she murmured in a naturally languid, bewitching voice. My spirit power needs to be cultivated anew. I'll need at least 3 months to stabilize fully and recover some strength. No matter, Aru said. We'll return to the Lake of Life. The life energy there will help you stabilize faster. On the way back, Fox Consort could no longer conceal her curiosity. How did you get such an impossible spirit ring configuration? She asked. Aru smiled and lowered her voice, whispering part of the secret of dual cultivation and the crucial role of Yu Qing's special physique. Fox Consort's bewitching eyes widened. Human spirit masters can advance that way? She breathed, stunned not by modesty, but by the possibility of a wildly efficient path to power. Not every human can, Aru explained. Only Yu Qing is special. Half a year ago when I left, I was spirit rank 92 with the usual rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple, 5 black. After meeting him, step by step I gained my present strength and rings. Fox Consort's eyes shimmered. She tilted her head and offered a provocative smile. Aren't you afraid I'll steal your Yu Qing away? Aru simply smiled confidently. I'm not afraid. You won't steal him. His love is vast. Even if you harmonize with him, you'll take a rightful place. You won't replace anyone. Fox Consort's alluring smile hesitated. He has many women? Aru nodded without fuss. Yes, and they're all good sisters. Fox Consort looked at Aru as if seeing her anew. Are you still the Aru I knew? She asked, incredulous. Aru only smiled. Some changes are best understood by experience. Back at the Lake of Life, Xiao Wu had been sitting listlessly at the shore, splashing water with her feet, while Sky Azure Bull Python and Titan Giant Ape stared at her without blinking, a scene both comical and pitiful. Mommy doesn't love me anymore. Deming and Erming are bullying me too, Xiao Wu wailed. The moment Aru returned, she dashed over, hugged her leg and began to fake cry, cranking up the cuteness. How could I not love you? Aru scolded, rubbing her daughter's hair. Sky Azure Bull Python and Titan Giant Ape had noticed the devastating girl in white behind a row. The faint, unmistakable aura of a three-eyed demon fox stopped them cold. You really transformed? Sky Azure Bull Python stared, huge ox eyes wide with disbelief. He couldn't fathom what had driven the proud old rival to such a step. Fox Consort gave him a lazy sideways glance and drawled, You'll have to ask your dear Aunt Rue. Facing the bewildered stares of the two spirit beasts, Aru only smiled enigmatically. Some things, if I told you now, would only confuse you more. When the time is right, you'll understand. The days that followed were a waiting game, waiting for Fox Consort to pass the fragile early 3 months of her transformation, to stabilize and regain part of her power. Then Aru planned to take her and Xiao Wu away from Star Do Great Forest and back to the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well. Yu Qing, still in Sunset Forest planning, training disciples and awaiting his wife's return, had no idea what fragrant, voluptuous surprise was soon to arrive. 51. New Home and Gifts. Far away in Sunset Forest, Yu Qing had no idea that Aru was preparing a surprise for him deep in the Star Do Great Forest. His days followed a steady, fulfilling rhythm. Every morning, he trained Ling Xin and Ling Mao, tweaked little Duguyan's physique, and kept company with his 2 pregnant wives. A new task had recently been added, surveying and marking the interior of the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Wangs. Well, he had long planned, clearly separating future living quarters from the cultivation zones. The job sounded simple, but it demanded a careful balance of energy flow, terrain, security, and space for future expansion. Yu Qing spent 3 full days walking every inch of the outer valley before he was satisfied. Standing on a high slope, he reviewed the blueprint in his mind, the living area where the energy was gentle, near water, and flat land. Cultivation zones tiered into basic, intermediate, and advanced sections ringed around the living area. The closer to the core, the denser the energy. He even reserved room for herb gardens and workshops. Good enough. He dropped durable spirit power markers at key points so the Duan and Z clans could build exactly to plan when they arrived. Why not erect the houses himself with the power of a titled Douluo? One look at the valley's fashionable little grave house, mockingly nicknamed One Step into the Grave by Dugu Bo, answered that. Yu Qing's architectural talent was inversely proportional to his cultivation talent. It was better to let the clansmen, his future fathers-in-law included, do the building. Half a month passed in quiet preparation. That morning, he put on fresh clothes and left the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well, heading to the outer entrance of Sunset Forest. According to his calculations, the Duan and Z migration party should arrive today. He sat on a clean stone beneath an ancient tree at the forest gate and waited. By noon, the sun filtered through leaves, making the woods feel stifling, but an invisible field kept heat and insects at bay. He remained cool and dry. After a few dry rations and half an hour more of waiting, a plume of dust rose on the distant road. a long procession appeared on the horizon. Qing stood, glanced over the column, and counted. 78 people, matching the list, men and women pushing carts and carrying luggage, dusty from travel. As they drew near, Qing stepped forward with a warm smile. The carriage curtains parted, and Father Duan and Father Z jumped down almost together. Weary but excited, the two clan heads hurried to greet their son-in-law. "Son-in-law, you honor us by coming yourself." Father Duan clasped his hands, his voice full of affection. "Long journey. We're grateful." Qing returned the courtesy, his eyes sweeping the curious, nervous clansmen behind them. Father Z sighed. "Not a hardship. If these old bones are of use to you, we'll give everything to make this work." Father Duan looked apologetic. "Only, we're sorry, son-in-law. There was resistance in the clan. In the end, we could bring only these few." Qing waved him off. "Not at all. Those willing to trust us and take this path already make me happy. Quality beats quantity." His words and manner moved the two fathers. They felt this son-in-law was worth his weight in gold. "Those short-sighted fools will regret it sooner or later," Father Duan muttered confidently. After greetings, Qing took the lead. A faint but vast aura spread like an invisible shield, wrapping the party. The column began its march into Sunset Forest. Hunters at the gate stared, slack-jawed. "Hey bro, what's this?" a young spirit master asked, pointing at the families. "Highest spirit power looks like Spirit King, and they're just strolling into Sunset Forest? Delivering takeout to the spirit beasts?" His companion swallowed. "Crazy. Absolutely crazy." In the next instant, a deep, primeval pressure rolled out from the handsome young leader. Nearby spirit beast auras froze, then fled in terror, clearing miles of forest in heartbeats. The hunter's legs turned to jelly. Only then did they realize this was no delivery. A super expert was escorting refugees. Watching the column disappear into the trees, all they felt was envy and awe. Mindful of children and weaker clansmen, Qing set a slow pace. Under his guidance, moonlight like liquid silver bathed the woods, and the caravan reached the foot of a strange snow-capped mountain without incident. Father Z gazed up and couldn't help exclaiming, "Son-in-law, is this our future home?" "Yes." Qing nodded and addressed the whole group, his voice clear in every ear. "Our home is halfway up this mountain. From here on, stay right behind me. Do not set one foot wrong. Below the slope lies a deadly miasma. Any spirit master below Spirit King who inhales it will die within 3 breaths." At those words, every clansman, including the two fathers, both near the peak of Spirit Ancestor, turned pale. Only then did they feel how mysterious and perilous their new home would be. "Rest assured, son-in-law, we'll follow you closely," Father Duan said at once, and together the two men ordered absolute obedience from their clansmen. Under Qing's guidance, the party began climbing a hidden path. After breaching the last natural barrier and seeing the churning, rainbow-colored miasma with their own eyes, nearly everyone's scalp prickled. They pressed tight against the person ahead, not daring the smallest misstep. At last, around midnight, they crossed the miasma zone and the view opened up. Thick spirit energy, the dreamlike ice and fire yin-yang, well, an unheard-of exotic plants stunned the newcomers into silence. It was like stepping into a legendary immortal realm. Duanxin and Zirui, forewarned of the plan, came forward smiling. When the two fathers saw their daughters' clearly rounded bellies, joy surged, though they couldn't help scolding them out of concern. "Nonsense. Now that you're with child, you should be resting. Why are you walking?" Father Duan chided, eyes full of worry. "This place is strange, and the energy's complex. What if it unsettles the pregnancy?" Father Z worriedly added the same. Duanxin and Zirui exchanged a smile, linked arms with their fathers, and said, "Don't worry, father. We're not the frail girls we used to be. It's very safe here, and our husband takes good care of us." Zirui glanced toward her travel-weary mother in the group and asked, "Father, has mother managed the long journey all right?" Father Z looked at his wife and nodded. "She's fired. A few days' rest, and she'll recover." Zirui said gently, "My husband is skilled with tonics. Tonight I'll ask him for a mild prescription to help mother recover." Father Z's eyes flashed with gratitude. He nodded, accepting his daughter and son-in-law's offer. After settling them briefly, Qing led the two fathers aside and pointed to the spirit power markers. "I've designated this area as the living zone. Houses, storehouses, dining halls will be built here. Please don't stray beyond it." He indicated an inner region where the energy grew noticeably richer. That's the training zone, divided by energy density. Even the outermost section yields cultivation efficiency at least 3 times that of the outside world. Hearing Yu Qing and feeling the almost tangible origin qi, Father Duan and Father Z were stunned. Their faces registered disbelief and then dawning comprehension. Only now did they understand why Yu Qing had chosen this place and why he had been so confident about building a power base. This was a cave heaven-blessed land. Overwhelming joy and relief flooded them. They rejoiced in having made the best possible choice. Yu Qing, smiling slightly mysterious, led them to a more secluded corner. Under their puzzled stares, he opened his palm, and 2 dazzling beams of light shot out, coalescing into 2 resplendent spirit bones, different in shape, equally majestic. "Fathers-in-law," Yu Qing said earnestly, "I have little with which to honor your hard journey. Please accept these 2 10,000-year spirit bones as my token of gratitude." To Yu Qing, they were ordinary items in his extravagant hoard, but to Father Duan and Father Z, they were objects of legend. Father Duan stammered, heart-pounding as he stared at the hovering bone. "Son-in-law, this is far too precious. We can't accept it." Father Z waved his hands, voice trembling, yet his gaze remained fixed on the spirit bone, an ultimate treasure countless spirit masters dreamed of. Yu Qing smiled, his tone brooking no refusal. "Please take them. These will greatly increase your strength and help you break through to Spirit King. Consider them my thanks for bringing your clansmen here, despite the hardships." Hearing his sincerity, the 2 fathers exchanged a look, saw the excitement and resolve in each other's eyes, and accepted the 10,000-year spirit bones with trembling hands. The instant they touched them, gentle, vast energy flowed into their bodies and made them tingle with vitality. Their gratitude toward Yu Qing and their joy at the choice they had made swelled to the brim. As for the actual building, Yu Qing rubbed his nose and laughed apologetically as he saw them still dazed. "I'll have to trouble you and the clansmen to do it yourselves. After all, if you want clothes and food, you'll have to make them with your own hands." With that, he left the 2 fathers cradling the spirit bones as if in a dream and went to arrange temporary camps for the rest of the clansmen. 52. Yin-Yang Sect. The next morning, Yu Qing pushed open his door and warm sunlight, along with fresh air, poured in. Beyond the threshold, a scene of bustling construction met his eyes. Father Duan and Father Z were directing members of their families with energetic gestures. Some were cutting logs, others tamping earth, and a few measuring and planning. Chants, hammering, and chatter blended into a lively cacophony. Both fathers-in-law radiated a noticeably stronger aura than the day before. It seemed they had successfully absorbed those 2 10,000-year spirit bones and smoothly advanced to the Spirit King level. Their vigor showed in every movement. Not everyone approved of the commotion. As Yu Qing watched the fledgling settlement with interest, a dark green-clad figure approached, carrying a small green-haired child who was still rubbing sleep from her eyes. Dugubo's face was stormy as he carefully handed the sleepy little Duguyan into Yu Qing's arms, then snorted in displeasure. "What's the matter? Who upset our senior Dugu?" Yu Qing asked with a smile, settling the child comfortably against his side. "Who else?" Dugubo pointed angrily toward the construction site. "They started hammering and clanging before dawn. Yan Yan is still growing. She needs her sleep. They woke her up." Yu Qing couldn't help laughing and quickly soothed him. "Old poison, calm down. There's no helping it. 70-80 people are waiting for shelter. The work's huge. If they don't start at dawn, when will the houses be finished? We can't leave everyone to sleep in the open." "I don't care where they sleep," Dugubo snapped. "They just can't disturb my granddaughter's rest, and they mustn't disrupt this old man's cultivation. You, go tell them to keep their noise down." Yu Qing knew Dugubo's temper well, sharp words, but not entirely heartless. He gave a conciliatory smile and a thumbs up. All right, leave it to me. I'll tell them to quiet down, especially at dawn and late at night. I'll make sure they're careful." At that, Dugubo's expression softened. He muttered, "At least you've got some conscience," then stalked back toward his poison herb garden, hands folded behind his back to fuss over his plants. Yu Qing, still carrying little Yan Yan, found the two fathers-in-law at the site. Father Duan paused his work when he saw him approaching. "Virtuous son-in-law, is something wrong?" Father Duan asked. Yu Qing smiled diplomatically. "Father-in-law, everyone's enthusiastic about building our home, which is good, but could we ask them to control the noise a little, especially early morning and late at night?" "Why?" Father Z frowned. "They just want to finish the houses and settle as soon as possible." "We're not the only ones here," Yu Qing explained. "There's a senior living in seclusion here who cultivates quietly and dislikes noise. Since we just arrived, we should respect the host's habits." "A senior?" The two men exchanged curious looks. To cultivate in such a treasure land, he must not be an ordinary person. "Which senior is it, virtuous son-in-law?" Yu Qing shrugged. "You should know his title, Poison Douluo, Dugu Bo." Poison Douluo? The revelation hit them like thunder. Father Duan and Father Z went pale, cold sweat breaking out on their foreheads. A titled Douluo, famous across the continent for lethal exotic poisons, residing on the very land where they were blasting and hammering? The legends called him ruthless enough to slaughter a city by himself. Fear made their knees weak. Seeing them so terrified, Yu Qing laughed and reassured them. "There's no need to be so panicked. Senior Dugu is eccentric, but he's not unreasonable. He's fiercely loyal to his friends. I'm a close friend of his. He's agreed to let us settle here. He only asked that we be mindful of the noise." Remembering Yu Qing's earlier encounter with the green-haired old man, the two fathers-in-law finally relaxed and exhaled. They looked at each other with astonishment at their luck. This son-in-law's connections were astonishing. Besides his own hidden strength and a devoted female titled Douluo, now he had a titled Douluo friend who controlled the land they were settling on. They silently vowed never to disappoint him. "Don't worry," they promised almost dramatically. "We'll be careful. We won't make loud noises, and we won't disturb His Excellency Dugu's cultivation." Yu Qing nodded and suddenly remembered the promise he'd made to Zirui last night. He took a written prescription from his robe and handed it to Father Z. "Father-in-law, this is a tonic to nourish the body and strengthen the foundation. Good for exhaustion after a long journey. Give it to mother-in-law. I'll have the herbs sent to you." Father Z's hands trembled as he took the paper. Seeing Yu Qing's neat handwriting and feeling the care behind it, he was deeply moved and could only nod. "Thank you, virtuous son-in-law. You're very thoughtful." Father Duan watched from the side with a touch of envy and sadness. The memory of his wife dying during childbirth years ago made him ache. Yu Qing noticed the flicker of emotion and stored it away, intending to show Duan more care in future. In the days that followed, with everyone working and keeping to quiet hours, the settlement rose quickly. Simple wooden and stone houses took shape, but already they felt like home. In less than 10 days, a settlement of considerable size had formed. One afternoon, Yu Qing sat alone in the study Father Duan had built for him. 2 sheets of paper lay before him. One read Heihuan Sect, the other Yin-Yang Sect. He'd been mulling over a name for the new power he intended to establish. The idea of a Tao companion system made him think of the Heihuan Sect, but that path's demonic reputation and methods didn't match his intentions. His path was a righteous one, harmonizing yin and yang. "I govern life, the green leaf," he mused, "and the black star and sinking abyss govern destruction and silence. Life and death, yin and yang. I've already condensed yin-yang complementary dual soul cores, and our dual cultivation seeks that balance. Yin-yang sect fits perfectly." A bright look came to his eyes, and he slapped the table. "That's it. From this day forward, the power will be called the Yin-Yang Sect." Delighted, he went to find Dugu Bo. The old man sat across from him with an expression that said, "What do you want now, boy?" Yu Qing poured him tea and smiled. "Senior Dugu, I have an important matter to discuss." "Oh, what's that?" Dugu Bo raised an eyebrow, blowing on his tea. "Are you interested in formally joining the Yin-Yang Sect I'm establishing?" Yu Qing asked directly, eyes bright. Dugu Bo paused, then put down his cup. "Join your sect? Forget it. I've been alone my whole life. Rules and regulations aren't for me. I'll help defend the place, maybe teach a thing or two, but joining? No." Yu Qing had half expected that. Calmly, he replied, "Don't refuse so quickly. This ice and fire yin-yang well is shared by us. You're one of its rightful owners. If I'm founding a sect here, it's only right that you have a share. The yin-yang sect belongs to you too. Dugubo's hand stilled. He looked at Yu Qing, something complex flickering in his eyes. After a long moment, he said, "You planned all along to hitch this old man to your war chariot, didn't you?" Yu Qing nodded openly, sincere. "Yes, this place is your home, and more than that, our foundation. Only with you on board will the yin-yang sect be whole and truly take root." Yu Qing's frankness, together with all the favors he'd shown Dugubo and Yan Yan, and the fact that the ice and fire yin-yang well was a treasure he wouldn't give up, softened the old man. He gave a wry smile. "Fine. Seems I've fallen into your hands this lifetime. All right, I'll join." Yu Qing sprang up, triumphant, and clapped Dugubo on the shoulder. "Excellent. Then it's settled. From today on, you're the vice sect master of the yin-yang sect." Tea sprayed from Dugubo's mouth as he sputtered and choked. His eyes widened in disbelief. "Wait, vice sect master? No, madman Ye. I agreed to join, but not to be vice sect master. Give me an honorary title, a guest elder, anything but that. Vice sect master is too much responsibility." Yu Qing grinned as if the matter were already done. The more capable someone is, the more they do. Vice sect master suits you perfectly, Senior Dugu. Come on, vice sect master Dugu. Dugubo realized he'd been maneuvered once more. He opened his mouth to protest, then let out a long, helpless sigh and slumped back in his chair like a man resigned to fate. "What a sin! I, Dugubo, who've been free and easy my whole life, how did I end up meeting a nemesis like you?" Although Dugubo finally gave a reluctant nod and agreed to join the yin-yang sect, the weight of the title Vice Sect Master sat on him like a stone. He scowled and complained to Yu Qing. "Madman Ye, are you doing this on purpose? Do you have to put me on the hot seat? You already have a fully qualified titled Douluo right next to you. That girl Aru is stronger than I am. She's your... Wouldn't it make more sense for her to take the Vice Sect Master role?" Yu Qing shook his head solemnly. "I have other plans for Aru. Her identity is unique. Her position in the sect will be very special in the future, but she isn't suited to be Vice Sect Master." "Unique?" Dugubo's green, serpentine eyes narrowed. "Unique how? Is she the illegitimate daughter of the Spirit Hall Pope or something?" Yu Qing smiled and dodged the direct truth. Aro was a transformed 100,000-year spirit beast, but answered enigmatically, "You'll understand in time. The yin-yang sect of the future may not be limited to humans alone." "Not just humans? You mean spirit beasts?" Dugubo stared, incredulous. "Yes," Yu Qing said. "I'll explain why later." After another round of coaxing and cajoling, appealing more than deceiving, Yu Qing finally had Dugubo accept the fait accompli of being the yin-yang sect's vice sect master. The old poison user grumbled about troubles and being bound, but a strange glint of anticipation appeared in his eyes. Once that matter was settled, Yu Qing went to find his two newly acquired fathers-in-law. "Fathers-in-law, the home is set up for now. It's time to sort out your spirit rings," he said bluntly. The news lit Father Duan and Father Z up like lanterns. They had been stuck at the spirit ancestor realm for years. Without the spirit bones Yu Qing had given them, they would have had little hope of breaking their bottlenecks. Now that the spirit bones had been absorbed and their bottlenecks shattered, all they lacked were worthy spirit rings. "We'll leave everything to our virtuous son-in-law," they said in unison, excitement and trust ringing in their voices. Yu Qing led them back through the sunset forest to seek suitable 10,000-year spirit beasts for their rings. The two men's spirits were a fire lizard and a purple cloud vine, intermediate spirits, not quite comparable to Duan Xin's former crimson flame dragon lizard or Zirui's purple cloud creeper, but each with distinctive qualities. Under Yu Qing's vast mental scans, finding appropriate spirit beasts was not difficult. He soon located an explosive flame porcupine of 10,000 years old for Father Duan and an 11,000-year thorny iron python vine for Father Z. The absorption went smoothly. With the aid of their spirit bones and Yu Qing acting as protector, both fathers-in-law integrated their new spirit rings. Their spirit power surged as they officially stepped into the Spirit King realm. Father Duan grabbed Yu Qing's hand, choking with emotion. "Son-in-law, thank you. If not for you, with our innate rank 4 spirit power, we would never have reached Spirit King in this life." Father Z bowed deeply. I'll never forget your great kindness as long as I live. Yu Qing helped them to their feet with a smile. You're too polite. We're family. You don't need such ceremony. Spirit King is only the beginning. With me by your side, I'll at least help you cultivate to Spirit Saint. If we find the right opportunities, Spirit Douluo might not be out of reach either. Spirit Saint. Spirit Douluo. Two realms they had never dared to dream about were now spoken of as if they were attainable. The two men looked at one another, eyes bright with disbelief and longing for the future. In that moment, they were certain they had made the right choice in following Yu Qing. By the way, Yu Qing reminded them on the walk back to the ice and fire yin-yang. Well, gather everyone tomorrow morning in the central open space. I have an important announcement. We'll see to it, son-in-law, they answered solemnly, already guessing his announcement would concern the organization he was building. Back in the valley, Yu Qing returned to his daily duties, preparing medicinal baths for Ling Xin and Ling Mo, and checking their cultivation progress, treating little Dugu Yan, using the power of life to gently disperse the jade phosphor serpent poison lodged in her meridians. Everything ran like clockwork. Far away, in the heart of the Star Dew Great Forest by the Lake of Life, Xiao Wu sat sullenly beside the water, poking at it with the listlessness of one who'd been scolded too often. For the past half-month, she'd been educated relentlessly by her mother. Aru had abandoned her usual gentleness and given a non-stop, all-angles lecture on safety and the dangers of sneaking out of the Lake of Life. Xiao Wu's rabbit ears might have grown calluses from the constant advice. She felt like her whole rabbit life had gone gray. Nearby, the fox consort sat cross-legged, shrouded in a mist of life energy and thick spirit power. She had already passed the fragile early stages of transformation, and under the Lake of Life's nourishing power of life, she had stabilized her human form. At that moment, she was condensing her first spirit ring. For a transformed 100,000-year spirit beast, the early rings weren't difficult to form. A unique fluctuation accompanied them, and a bright yellow ring rose up beneath her feet to circle her body. She opened long, seductive fox eyes that now held a new depth. Rising lightly, she padded to Aru's side and asked in a lazily magnetic voice, "When do we leave?" Aru gently set Xiao Wu down, still sulking, and examined the fox consort. Even in simple clothes, her peerless beauty and enchanting temperament shone through. Aru sighed and pulled a large black cloak from her spirit tool, handing it to the fox. "We can leave any time," she said, "but put this on first." The fox consort eyed the cloak with some disdain. "Why? It's not very pretty." Aru rolled her eyes. "In your current form, walking into the human world will bring a mountain of trouble and covetous eyes. We need to get back to the Sunset Forest quickly. It's better to avoid unnecessary attention." Reluctantly, the fox draped the cloak over her shoulders and drew the hood low, masking most of her face, so only a graceful chin and red lips were visible. Though her figure could still be guessed, she was no longer glaringly conspicuous. As she adjusted the hood, the fox leaned close to Aru and asked, voice low with curiosity, "Is this a Qing you keep talking about really as good as you say?" She truly could not imagine what kind of human man would turn a soft-bones demon rabbit into such a doting partner, and even convince her to find sisters for him. At the name Yu Qing, a tender smile spread across Aru's face, and her eyes softened. "He's the best man in the world. When you meet him, you'll understand." The fox consort's curiosity grew at the sight of Aru so obviously happy. She wanted to see for herself if this human truly was as miraculous as described. With preparations finished, Aru took Xiao Wu's hand. The cloaked fox consort fell in step beside them. They said farewell to the sky azure bull python and the titan giant ape, the massive guardians who watched over the lake. "Aunt Ru, Sister Xiao Wu, and Aunt Fox, travel safely," the titan giant ape Ming rumbled, his voice deep and reluctant. "If you need anything, come back at any time," the sky azure bull python Daming added in his resonant tone. Xiao Wu glanced back at the Lake of Life, its surface sparkling like a sapphire, and the two mountain-like figures standing guard. Her eyes went red. "Mama, can I still come back to see Daming and Ming in the future?" Aru stroked her daughter's hair and replied softly, "Of course, this will always be your home. Whenever you want to return, Mama will bring you. That reassurance brightened Xiaowu's mood. She kept looking back as they walked, then followed her mother and the mysterious Aunt Fox as they left the core of the Star-Dew Great Forest and set out toward the human world and toward the man named Yu Qing. 54. Yin and Yang were first established. Ye Huang was born. The next morning, in the central clearing of the residential area on the outskirts of the ice and fire yin-yang, 78 members of the Duan and Zi families, young and old, had gathered early. Curiosity, anticipation, and barely contained excitement showed on every face. The heads of both families had told them the night before that an important figure would make an announcement today. This figure being the mysterious, powerful son-in-law of the two families. Father Duan and Father Zi stood at the front, solemn and proud. Nearby, Yu Qing was tugging along an elderly man in a dark green robe who clearly did not want to be there. The old man was Dugu Bo, whom Yu Qing had hauled out of the poisonous herb garden. "Madman Ye, let go of me, kid. I have no interest in parades and slogans." Dugu Bo grumbled, trying to wriggle free. His face radiated unwillingness. "Since you're already here, Vice Sect Master, give me some face," Yu Qing said with a calm smile, his hand steady as he pulled Dugu Bo to the front. The crowd's attention locked onto him. Their eyes shone with awe and hope. Word had spread by now. This seemingly young son-in-law had casually produced a 10,000-year spirit bone, a treasure from the legendary Blood River, to help their family heads break through to the long-dreamed of Spirit King realm. For ordinary spirit masters with only second or third level innate soul power, could he be the chance to reach heights they had never dared imagine? Yu Qing ignored the fanatic stares. He held Dugu Bo in place and faced the crowd, clearing his throat. The noisy clearing fell silent. "I believe you already know who I am," he said, his voice calm but clear. "But I'll introduce myself anyway." He paused, sweeping his gaze across the field. "I am Yu Qing." The single name made everyone's breath catch. "This year I am 30 years old," he continued. 30 years old? They were stunned, so young. "My cultivation is that of a level 97 title Douluo," he added without emotion. Silence crashed down like a physical thing. A 30-year-old title Douluo, level 97, was unimaginable. Before the crowd could fully process it, Yu Qing let a thought loose. A crystal green spirit manifested from his palm, like lacquered jade leaf spirit. A vast, pure life energy rolled through the clearing like a gentle tide, bathing the living quarter. Young and old felt their bodies lighten. Long-held fatigue seemed to wash away. Old pains eased, hidden injuries mended. It felt as if they were bathing in warm spring sunlight, like a temporary lift of their very life force. Then, beneath Yu Qing's feet, spirit rings rose one after another like fireworks in slow motion. Purple, purple, black, 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 black. Red, red, red. 2 purple spirit rings that exceeded expectation appeared first. The crowd gasped. 4 midnight black 10,000-year rings followed, eliciting even louder cries. And when 3 blood-red rings hung in the air, blazing like small suns and radiating an oppressive pressure that made souls tremble, the clearing went utterly still. People were frozen, mouths agape, minds blank. Even Father Duan and Father Zi, who had been mentally prepared for something extraordinary, were dumbstruck, hearts pounding. They had known their son-in-law was powerful, but not like this. This spirit ring configuration overturned everything they thought they knew about spirit masters. What kind of prodigy had their daughters chosen? Bathed in that light, Yu Qing spoke calmly but with undeniable authority. "My title, Leaf Emperor." Leaf Emperor. The title carried both life and imperial weight. He continued, "I not only possess the strength you see, but I have also studied spirit theory extensively and achieved success in over-limit spirit ring absorption." His eyes swept over the stunned faces. "Today, on this precious land, I establish a sect. It will be called Yin-Yang." A beat of silence, then Yu Qing's voice rose with compelling majesty. "Are you all willing to join my Yin-Yang sect and be the first disciples to establish our foundation?" After the brief silence came a roar. "We are willing. We are willing. We will follow Sect Master Leaf Emperor to the death." A tidal cheer rose, as fervent as a storm. Eyes shone with worship and hope as they stared at the man surrounded by majestic spirit rings. In their eyes, Yu Qing was the only true guide to a glorious future. Yu Qing nodded once, satisfied. With a thought, he withdrew his spirit manifestation and the dazzling rings, but the fanaticism in the crowd remained. "Since you have entered my sect, I will do my utmost to cultivate you all," he said. "Resources, cultivation techniques, and guidance will not be withheld. I want each of you to become powerful on your own, worthy of the name Yin-Yang Sect. Long live the sect master. Long live the Leaf Emperor," they shouted. Qing smiled and then presented the reluctant Douluo at the front again. "I have also invited a vice sect master for Yin-Yang," he announced. This senior, famed across the continent and unmatched in poisons, the poison Douluo. Douluo's name dropped like a second bombshell. The poison Douluo, legendary, had joined Yin-Yang and even accepted the role of vice sect master. Two titled Douluos in one sect. This strength rivaled the top sects of the Douluo Continent. "Greetings, vice sect master. Peace to the vice sect master." Faced with such reverence, Douluo's reluctance eased. He cleared his throat, tried to assume a stately air, and said in a low voice, "Ahem, since I've joined, we're on the same side. Rest assured, if anyone dares bully you outside in the future, just say the name Poison Douluo. If that doesn't scare them off, I'll go myself and let them taste the poison Douluo's poison." Qing glanced at him with amusement. "Oh, old Douluo, I didn't expect you to step into the role so readily, already starting to protect your own?" Douluo's face flushed, and he snorted. "Humph, I have always protected my own. So what? Is that not allowed?" Qing only smiled and turned to announce the new sect's initial rule, simple, direct, and protective. "All members of my sect must remember, if others do not provoke you, do not provoke them. If others provoke you, return it 100-fold. The rule was met with enthusiastic approval. It gave people an unprecedented sense of security and belonging. Qing then declared the establishment of the first hall of the Yin-Yang sect, Qinghui Hall, meaning green leaf's radiance, benefiting all living beings. For now, Father Z would serve as hall master and Father Duan as vice hall master, in charge of managing the current disciples and daily affairs. Qing's gaze fell on the children in the crowd, and his tone grew serious. "Hallmaster Z, Vice Hallmaster Duan, compile a detailed list tonight of all the children who have not yet undergone awakening, as well as those who already have, and hand it to me." Father Z bowed. "Rest assured, Sect Master, before tonight I will present the list." "Very well," Qing said. "I will personally formulate the most suitable training plans for them. That is all for today. You may disperse." The crowd complied, still buzzing with excitement, as they bowed respectfully and filed away, faces lit with hope. After dismissing them, Qing and Douluo left. Douluo muttered, "Finally finished," and slipped back to his hut to tend his poisonous herbs. Qing returned home, sharing the news of the Yin-Yang sect's founding with Duan Xin and Zi Rui with quiet pride. Both women glowed with pride for their husband. He checked on the medicinal baths and cultivation progress of the sisters Ling Xin and Ling Mao, offering some guidance, then retired to his study. Closing the door, the smile faded from his face. He sat cross-legged, closed his eyes, and his consciousness sank into the vast, mysterious expanse of the system space. Inside the study, Qing's mind was calm and focused. His consciousness had already submerged into his sea of spirit. The system interface shimmered into being before him. 2 whole months without any major spending, plus what I saved before. He glanced at the number tucked in the corner of the interface, and a satisfied smile tugged at his mouth. Finally scraped the Yin-Yang points back up to 300,000. The Yin-Yang sect had just been founded. Now was the moment to pour in resources. 300,000 points could buy exactly what was needed. He opened the system mall with practiced ease. 6 item icons, each pulsing with different radiance and aura, lined up before his eyes. 1. Condensing Origin Pill, bottle. Slightly increases cultivation speed for spirit elders and below, stabilizes foundations, no side effects. Price, 500 Yin-Yang points. 2. Class 5 Spirit Tool, Gale Pulse Cannon Blueprint. Offensive Spirit Tool, inject spirit power to fire wind projectiles, considerable destructive power. Price, 3,000 Yin-Yang points. 3. Iron Essence, 500 Jin, high-purity metallic material, suitable for forging, construction, or spirit tool research. Price, 100 Yin-Yang points. 4. 10,000 Year Spirit Ring, Wind Spirit Finch, Spirit ring taken from a 12,000-year wind spirit finch, suited to agility attack systems and wind attribute spirits. Price, 8,000 yin-yang points. 5. Flora Spirit Fertilizer. Special medicinal fertilizer that slightly accelerates herb growth and mildly boosts potency. Price, 1,200 yin-yang points. 6. Spirit Source. Price 10,000 yin-yang points each. Oh, everything that just restocked is actually useful. Yu Qing's eyes brightened. Pills to speed up cultivation for low-level disciples, blueprints and materials to arm the force, fertilizer to accelerate herb plots, spirit sources to increase spirit bone years. Everything was urgently needed. The Wind Spirit Finch Spirit Ring was useless to him personally, but it could be kept for a future disciple who qualified. Without hesitation, he waved a hand. System, buy them all. Ding, purchase successful. A total of 23,300 yin-yang points deducted, items delivered to system space. A pile of goods arrived instantly, putting Yu Qing in an excellent mood. Seeing he still had over 280,000 points left, he decided to press his luck and try refreshing them all for something even better. System, refresh them all. Light flashed and the list changed. The new slots were mostly herbs, ores, and other basic resources, useful, but not exactly what he wanted. He refreshed again. Second, third, he refreshed 5 times in a row. The daily free refreshes were gone, and each subsequent refresh cost more. The 5 paid refreshes ate up nearly 120,000 yin-yang points, but the haul made him feel every point was worth it. In those 5 attempts, he not only secured 3 more spirit sources, but also found a body refining manual that made his eyes light up. Heavenly Origin Body Refinement Art, an ancient body tempering method that draws heaven and earth origin qi to temper the physique and solidify foundations. Entry is relatively easy and requires little aptitude, but progress in the late stage is slow. Major achievement demands tremendous perseverance and great opportunities. Appraisal, extremely high potential, upper limit even higher than the host's 1,000 refinements method, but far more widely applicable, ideal for mass training of grassroots members. Excellent. Yu Qing grinned. His 1,000 refinements method was powerful, but it demanded high spirit power and physical capacity from practitioners, unsuited for general use. The Heavenly Origin Body Refinement Art filled that gap perfectly. It could become the core body refining technique of the Yin-Yang sect and raise the baseline fitness and cultivation potential of the whole congregation. With the 5 refreshes used, about 180,000 yin-yang points remained. He drew a deep breath and turned his attention to the corner of system space where 5 pink heart-shaped chests glowed, treasures he had kept carefully all this time. They were affection treasure chests, rewards the system issued when Duanshin, Zirui, and Aru's affection for him reached 90. For some reason, Aru had given him 3, perhaps because she had been his first 5-star Dao companion, or perhaps because of her special lineage. He reached out. The chests were warm under his fingertips, somatic testaments to their unconditional love. He had meant to keep them forever. But a chest's purpose is to be opened, he murmured, his gaze hardening. May whatever comes out be worthy of their feelings. He opened Duanshin's chest first. It was warm as though it still held her body heat. Pink light flared and vanished. The chest dissolved, and an ancient heavy tome replaced it. Its cover looked as if inlaid with dragon scales, and a vast, majestic aura poured from the pages. Heavenly Dragon Transformation, a Dragon Clan's secret body refining method to transform the body toward dragonhood. Visualize the true dragon, use spirit power and blood as guides to draw dragon chi to temper the body. Divided into 9 transformations, each completed stage evolves physique, blood, and spirit power, drawing the practitioner ever closer to the Dragon Clan. Completing the 9th transformation sheds the mortal body, becoming a true dragon and granting control over a law. Warning, practitioner must possess a top-tier dragon-type spirit, otherwise Dragon Chi Backlash is extremely dangerous. Holy, even Yu Qing couldn't help swearing. The Heavenly Dragon Transformation was tailor-made for Duanshin. Her spirit, the Crimson Flame Dragon Lizard, evolved through dual cultivation into the Crimson Flame Red Dragon, already carried a thin Dragon Clan bloodline. Using this method to purify and sublime that bloodline could lead to limitless achievement. Becoming a true dragon and obtaining a law? That was practically a straight path to divine rank. Sheener. Qing tightened his grip on the codex, voice trembling with excitement. Once the child is born safely, we'll devote ourselves to dual cultivation. If we don't forge a top tier, no, a Saint Dragon spirit, I won't use yin-yang power for anything else. He mapped out the road she would travel, carefully stowed the heavenly dragon transformation away, then opened Zirui's chest. Zirui's chest dissolved into motes of violet light and left behind a fist-sized purple orb. Stars swirled within it like a living cosmos, exuding a deep gravitational pull. Star Spirit Orb, formed from the lingering will of a dead life star. If refined, the orb lets a spirit actively absorb stellar power, condensing a unique spirit fruit, the Star Spirit Fruit. Effect: Spirit Masters below Spirit King can rise 1 to 2 ranks unconditionally, limit 3 per person. If absorbed by a matching spirit, it can raise that spirit's grade, mid-tier and below only, up to high tier. If already divine rank, it advances to peak. Bloody hell, another divine treasure, Qing exclaimed. Zirui's spirit was the purple cloud vine, a plant-type spirit. If it could absorb starlight and bear fruit, the Z family disciples could be trained in batches. Eventually, it might even become a unique resource of the Yin-Yang sect, its value immeasurable. Finally, he faced the 3 pink chests from a row. He opened them one after another. Soft pink flashes blossomed, and 3 items hovered before him. The first was a scroll of white silk, soft as jade, embroidered with an ancient script and a vivid moonlit jade rabbit. Jade rabbit scripture, the inherited cultivation technique of the Moon Palace Jade Rabbit clan. It draws in lunar radiance to temper both soul and physique. At peak mastery, it can awaken the Jade Rabbit bloodline, giving the spirit or the body itself a high chance of evolving into the divine rank Taiyin Jade Rabbit, Douluo Continent variant. The second item was a translucent bone, lustrous as glazed jade, exuding an otherworldly sheen. Glazed body, a secret body refining art. Specific ratios of glazed crystals and rare metals must be smelted and their essences absorbed into the flesh, gradually turning the body as pure, flawless, and unbreakable as glazed jade, while granting superb energy affinity and capacity. Warning: consumes vast quantities of glazed crystals and rare metals. Do not attempt without deep pockets. The third was a codex of unknown material, neither gold nor jade, its cover showing the interflow of yin and yang. Dual Cultivation Secret Codex, the orthodox legacy of yin-yang. Dual Cultivation. It expounds the principles of mutual nourishment and the meeting of dragon and tiger, containing many dual cultivation methods to help Tao companions advance together, refine spirit power, and consolidate foundations. System tip: host, you know what to do, about 1% as effective as my own assistance. Qing stared, speechless. What kind of treasure chests were these? They were perfect, tailor-made gift packs for his 3 Tao companions. Heavenly Dragon transformation fit Duanshin to a T. The Star Spirit Orb matched Zirui. The Jade Rabbit scripture aligned with a Rose Softbones Demon Rabbit, pointing straight to a divine rank evolution. Glazed body seemed meant for him, probably, and the Dual Cultivation Secret Codex could serve as the sect's foundational legacy for everyone. System, he complained inwardly, half laughing, half exasperated. You planned this all along, didn't you? Waiting for me to open the boxes so you could hand out gifts calibrated for my wives and followers. Ding. Answer, correct. Items from affection treasure chests have a high probability of aligning with the giver or their associates. This system exists to assist the host and Tao companions in growing together. The system's electronic voice was flat and emotionless, but Qing felt a warmth spread through him, a swell of responsibility. The system was a machine, but its arrangements were thoughtful. He remembered another thing. Come to think of it, you haven't given me quests or talked much lately. You're nothing like the chatterbox you were during the newbie phase. Ding, this is a support-type Tao companion system. After the tutorial, main functions are dual cultivation assistance, mall exchange, affection monitoring, and rewards. Finding Tao companions, nurturing feelings, exploring the world, and handling crises are tasks for the host. This system provides necessary aid. Qing fell silent, emotions mixed. The good news: no ridiculous threats of obliteration, and he retained full autonomy. The downside, the so-called sage mode after dual cultivation, the grind of refining yin-yang power and future tribulations. All of it he would have to figure out himself. The system was a powerful tool, not an all-knowing nanny. Got it. He asked no more. Compared with the lively sprite he had first met, this Tao companion system was an utterly rational program that followed rules to the letter. His gaze settled on the dual cultivation secret codex. He withdrew it from system space. It felt like warm, ancient jade and thrummed with a subtle rhythm. With this, the yin-yang sect finally has a true legacy art worthy of being our foundation. He caressed the cover, eyes shining. This round of shopping and unboxing had yielded far more than he'd imagined, not only solving the resource needs of a fledgling power, but also paving a clear path to the peak for his 3 wives. Wealthy haul, he murmured with relief. Satisfied, he closed the system interface and withdrew his consciousness from the sea of spirit. Chapter 56. Purchasing medicinal materials. Night had fallen, but the living quarters of the ice and fire yin-yang well were still brightly lit. In Qing's study, candlelight flickered across his concentrated profile as he worked. Father Duan and Father Z placed 2 neatly arranged lists on his desk with respectful deference. One list recorded 12 children whose spirits had not yet awakened. The other listed 21 youths whose spirits had already awakened. Qing picked up the lists and studied them carefully. Among the awakened children, talent was generally low. Most had innate soul power around rank 2 to rank 3. Only one child, Duan Hong, a direct descendant of the Duan family, had innate soul power at rank 4. The 2 fathers-in-law stood to one side, uneasy and ashamed. Father Z murmured, "Sect leader." The Duan family still had a few children with a bit better talent, those with innate soul power at rank 4. But their parents were reluctant and ultimately decided not to migrate with us. Father Duan sighed. Yes, if only they had come. Qing set the lists down. There was no disappointment on his face, only a gentle smile. It's fine. These children will do. Talent isn't everything. Proper nurturing and personal effort matter more. The 2 elders felt some relief, and a renewed sense of responsibility filled them. Qing's expression grew solemn. Since the 2 of you are now head and deputy head of the sect's radiant hall and responsible for cultivating the congregation, your own strength must not lag. Tonight, I will teach you the sect's core cultivation technique. Father Duan and Father Z straightened instantly, eyes bright with expectation. The yin-yang sect's core technique, how wonderful that would be. Qing did not speak further. With a slight exertion of will, a gentle, vast mental force enveloped them. He transmitted, directly by mental force, the foundational chapter and key points of the dual cultivation secret codex. A moment later, it was done. Father Z closed his eyes to digest the flood of information. His anticipation turned into an awkward bewilderment, then a twitching smile. He opened his eyes, looked at Qing with a complicated expression, opened his mouth as though to speak, and then faltered. This cultivation technique, the effects sound astonishing, mutually beneficial, raising both partners, but the method, isn't it a bit too improper? What on earth has my son-in-law been thinking? Father Duan's reaction was more extreme. His face flushed red, his gaze wandered, and his hands didn't know where to go. After a long, embarrassed pause, he finally whispered, "Son-in-law, this technique is excellent, but my wife died in childbirth when Sheener was born. How could I possibly practice this dual cultivation method alone?" Qing slapped his forehead in chagrin. "Damn, I forgot about that. Forgive me, father-in-law." He hurriedly added, "Don't worry, the dual cultivation technique is one of our core secrets, but it isn't the only path. I have another top-grade meditation method you can practice solo with equally impressive results." He extended his mental force again and transmitted the blood-burning meditation method, along with its side effects, into Father Duan's mind. Father Duan read through it carefully. The more he absorbed, the more astonished he looked, although a line of worry remained. "Son-in-law, this blood-burning meditation method's speed is terrifying, but burning blood energy, will it damage the foundation? Can the body endure it long-term?" Qing smiled and reassured him. "Rest easy, father-in-law. Sheener and Rui cultivated this blood-burning meditation method along with a slightly modified dual cultivation method. As for the side effects," he tapped his fingertip, and a translucent, sparkling leaf phantom suffused with dense life force condensed at the tip. "This is my first spirit ability, The vibrant purple sunleaf, he explained. It can restore the body to its optimal state in an extremely short time. Whether soul power is exhausted, injuries severe, blood depleted, or the mind fatigued, it all can be recovered, more than enough to offset the side effects of the blood-burning meditation method. Seeing that leaf of boundless vitality and feeling the heart-stirring restorative power within, the two elders' last doubts vanished. Shock and admiration replaced hesitation. This son-in-law of theirs not only possessed formidable strength, but also seemed capable of devising cultivation techniques and solving cultivation problems. Both men felt once more that their family had made the right choice. With their newly obtained techniques, the two elders left the study brimming with excitement and determination, eager to return and begin cultivating. After seeing them off, Qing returned to his desk and looked once more at the two lists of names. His face grew very focused as he began designing tailored training plans for the children. What medicinal dishes would build a solid foundation for those whose spirits had not awakened? Which medicinal baths would unlock potential after awakening? Which meditation methods should be paired with different spirits and different levels of innate soul power? Every step had to be planned carefully to form a set of effective rules. He worked through the night. Only at dawn did he set down his brush and exhale. On the desk lay a thick stack of paper covered in his writing, a detailed preliminary system for training low-level disciples of the yin-yang sect, from medicinal dish formulas and bath procedures to meditation pairings and periodic assessment standards. Finally done, Qing rubbed his throbbing temples. Next came the mountain of herbs those plans required. He picked up his brush again and wrote a long list naming dozens of ingredients and the huge quantities needed. He frowned. So many herbs, some rare, no nearby town could supply them all. He'd have to send someone to a major city like Heaven-Do City, and he himself couldn't be away for long. A perfect candidate sprang to mind. List in hand, he headed for the courtyard where Douluo lived. Douluo was busy feeding his treasured poisonous plants a homemade nutrient solution, filling the air with a peculiar scent. Qing pushed the gate open without ceremony and walked in. Without looking up, Douluo grumbled, "You never visit unless you want something. Out with it. What favor now?" Qing chuckled and stepped closer. "Senior Douluo, your wisdom eye sees everything. I have a small favor to ask." "Spit it out." Douluo rolled his eyes. He knew Qing's tricks too well. Qing handed over the lengthy list. Douluo set down his tools, skimmed it, and raised an eyebrow. "This much? Are you opening an apothecary?" The quantities were far larger than he expected. "It's to train the children in the sect," Qing said with a smile. "Thank you, Senior Douluo." Douluo snorted and flicked the list aside. "I'll run the errand, but stop calling me Old Man Douluo in front of Yan Yan. The little girls started copying you." Embarrassed, Qing rubbed his nose. Yes, my fault. I won't do it in front of Yan Yan. I'll protect your esteemed image." Satisfied, Douluo stowed the list. "Good, I'll head to Heaven-Do City and bring everything back soon. Now, where's the money?" He held out his hand. Qing handed over a heavy pouch from his spirit tool and placed it in Douluo's palm. 500 gold coins. Is that enough? If not, pay the difference and I'll reimburse you when you return." Douluo weighed the pouch, rechecked the list, and estimated. That should do. Fine, leave it to me." He went inside to pack, then vanished in a blur of green as he sped toward Heaven-Do City. With Douluo gone, Qing felt the burden lift. Back at his quarters, he happened to see little Douluo rubbing her eyes and stumbling out of her room. "Teacher?" she called softly. Qing smiled and scooped her up. "Yan Yan's awake? Come on, teacher will introduce you to some new friends." As his first disciple, she had limitless potential. She shouldn't grow up isolated. Letting her join the other children early, build friendships, and form her own network was an essential part of her training. Cradling the little girl, Qing walked toward the living area where the children were already doing morning exercises or playing. The rising sun lengthened their shadows and filled the scene with gentle warmth. Qing led little Douluo by the soft hand to a cleared area at the edge of the residential quarter. 33 children of varying ages were playing or running basic drills under the supervision of several adult disciples. He squatted, set Douluo gently on the ground, and patted her back. Yan Yan, go on. Go play with the older brothers and sisters. The child hesitated. Her jade-green eyes studied the unfamiliar group shyly, and her tiny fist clung to Yu Qing's sleeve. Under his encouraging gaze, she finally summoned her courage and, on short legs, half ran toward them. Thanks to more than 2 months of Yu Qing's no-expense-spared care, Dugu Yan was no longer the frail girl who gasped after a few steps. Her cheeks were rosy, her body sturdy. She could run and jump like any other child. The other youngsters quickly noticed the newcomer's unusual hair color. Dugu Yan's delicate face and timid manner stirred every boy's protective instinct, and since she hadn't been spoiled, Grandpa Dugu Bo hadn't had time for that. She fit right in, her silvery laughter ringing across the clearing. Yu Qing stood a few paces away, hands clasped behind his back, watching his little disciple mingle with the others. He wanted her to have not only strength, but a whole, happy childhood. Time passed busily. The yin-yang sect pulsed with energy. Yu Qing's days were full and regular. He kept company with his 2 pregnant wives, using the power of life to sense and nurture the growing fetuses, inspected Ling Xin and Ling Mao's medicinal baths and cultivation progress, guided his 2 fathers-in-law in sect affairs, and checked on the 33 children from time to time. The sisters Ling Xin and Ling Mo advanced at lightning speed. With special medicinal baths and the blood-burning meditation method, their spirit power rose 2 full ranks in 2 months, already at rank 17. Such rapid advancement would shake the outside world. Yu Qing planned that once they reached rank 20 and gained their 2nd spirit rings, stronger medicinal cuisine would push them into the spirit elder realm before next summer. Dugu Yan's program was gentler and longer term. Her baths and diet now included herbs that quietly strengthened meridians and physique, preparing for the day, 2 years hence, when her spirit awakening should grant her at least innate full spirit power. Dugu Bo's procurement had been superb. Mountains of herbs filled the storehouses. With ample supplies, Yu Qing launched a large-scale training program for the 33 children. The workload was too great for him alone, so he drafted a group of absolutely loyal, quick-handed clansmen from his fathers-in-law. He taught them to identify herbs, control flame, and proportion ingredients, turning out batch after batch of medicinal bath stock and base cuisine packs. Yu Qing's final inspection and fine-tuning took less than 2 hours a day, freeing the rest of his time. Seasons turned. While the world outside lay under biting wind and snow, the ice and fire yin-yang well remained warm as spring, only slightly cooler in the air. One chilly dawn, Yu Qing made his usual rounds of the Children's Training Center in Qinghuai Hall, nodded at the 33 youngsters grimacing yet enduring in their special bath barrels, then strolled back to his study. Winter sunlight filtered through crystal panes, warm without heat. He brewed a cup of clear tea, sat at his desk, closed his eyes, and sank his consciousness into that vast sea of mental force. His goal, to keep probing the unfathomable, complete version of spirit-soul technology. The deeper he studied the text, the more staggering and ahead of its time the technology seemed. It was far more rigorous and perfected than the prototype the future god of emotion would one day develop with Electrolux's tattered soul. It demanded more of both spirit masters and spirit beasts, but promised far greater potential. According to the technical description, a spirit master must be at spirit king rank, possess formidable mental force, and have a body tough enough to endure the initial soul shock and energetic fusion that contracting a spirit soul would bring. After a successful contract, the spirit soul not only provides the 5th spirit ring, but can be summoned as an energy entity to fight side by side with the spirit master, their minds linked as one. On the spirit beast side, the creature must have at least 10,000 years of cultivation, because only at that age is its soul sufficiently complete, granting higher growth potential and malleability. Once contracted, it doesn't stop at 10,000 years. It advances together with the spirit master's rising strength. If the spirit master eventually becomes a titled Douluo, the spirit soul may even break past racial limits and evolve into a terrifying 100,000-year existence. As for 1,000, 100, or 10-year spirit beasts, contracting them isn't impossible, just extremely inefficient. Their growth ceiling is low and their soul strength inadequate. Even if contracted, the boost to both the spirit master and the beast's own evolution would be negligible. If only it could be paired with ascension platform technology that increases a spirit soul's age, Qing thought. Alas, that won't be developed until tens of thousands of years later, when Douluo Continent enters its interstellar era. He shook his head, setting impractical fantasies aside to focus on the technology in front of him. When he reached the ultimate core secret of the technique, even his composed face betrayed him with a gasp. This spirit soul technology actually contained the mighty power of legacy. When a contracted spirit master reaches the end of his lifespan and his physical body perishes, the spirit soul does not dissipate. Instead, it sinks into slumber as a special soul energy form, attaching itself to the blood descendants of the spirit master or to a designated legacy artifact. If a genius appears among those descendants, the dormant spirit soul awakens and may enter a new contract, continuing its evolutionary path. If the contracted spirit beast originally possessed an exceptionally noble bloodline, true dragons, phoenixes, top-tier apes, and the like, gifted beyond compare, and is further nurtured by generations of outstanding contractors, it might even break the 100,000-year ceiling and glimpse the legendary million-year realm. A spirit master contracted with such a spirit soul would receive unimaginable enhancements. The road to godhood would widen dramatically. Even without reaching a true god position, the feedback power could very well push him to a pseudo-god 100th rank, granting strength comparable to a low-level god officer. This is practically creating an entirely new cultivation system, family heritage capable of lasting 10,000 generations, Qing thought, his heartbeat quickening. Ru, you really are my lucky star. Without the beginner's chest we gained in our first meeting, who knows how long it would have taken to obtain such a heaven-defying technique. One could imagine how the continent's structure would be rewritten once this technology spread. Powerful clans possessing truly immortal guardian beasts of legacy. But after the excitement, regret flickered across Qing's face. Unfortunately, all this requires long years of accumulation and tempering. To birth million-year spirit souls and 100-rank pseudo-gods would take at least 10,000 years of family heritage and the combined efforts of countless generations of geniuses. Distant water can't quench present fire. He couldn't help but think of the current political landscape. Spirit Hall's ambitions, Bibi Dong's unfathomable nature and potential for extreme acts, Tang San, who had yet to transmigrate, harboring a protagonist halo and the Tang sect background, and Qianrenshe, inheritor of the angel god. If he could field organized armies of 100-rank pseudo-gods and million-year spirit souls now, and add the dual god-king thrones of life and destruction he might claim in the future, sweeping the continent, or even contending with the Asura god and the sea god, would not be impossible. But it was a beautiful fantasy. As Qing's thoughts raced, marveling at the grandeur and limits of spirit soul technology, his mind suddenly stirred. He keenly sensed a familiar ripple of energy from the poison barrier zone around the ice and fire yin-yang well. That aura was warm yet resilient, carrying a longing that had haunted his dreams. Aru. She had returned. Beside her presence were two much weaker auras. One brimmed with lively, playful vitality, undoubtedly Xiao Wu. The other was unfamiliar, deep, reserved, radiating an innate charm yet clearly not a human spirit master. She's finally back, Qing murmured, a smile unconsciously curving his lips. Anticipation and tenderness filled his eyes, and she had brought a guest. Just as Qing felt the warm surge of relief at Aru's return and was about to go meet her at the valley entrance, his mental senses snagged another wave of spirit power racing toward them, cold, violent, soaked in blood. This aura was overwhelmingly oppressive, the kind that belonged to a rank 95 titled Douluo. Dozens more spirit fluctuations trailed behind it. The weakest were Spirit King level, with several Spirit Saints and even a few Spirit Douluos among them. They were headed straight for the poisonous miasma zone outside the ice and fire yin-yang Vor well, clearly hunting Aru and her companions. The softness in Qing's face vanished. He tapped his foot and blurred. In the next instant, he stood at the foot of the snowy mountain, blocking the path between the bloody aura and the miasma entrance. No sooner had he appeared than a tide of blood-colored spirit power surged forward, smelling of iron and death, pressing the air into a faint red. Yu Qing's eyes darkened with killing intent. Whoever dared hunt a Ru here would have to die. A figure streaked out of the sanguine tide and hovered before him. The man wore a dark red robe soaked as if in fresh blood. His hair was the same dried blood red, his face cruel and malignant. He exuded a dense, bloody evil qi. He was the leader, a titled Douluo who called himself Blood Demon. Blood Demon had expected to find Dugubo, the infamous poison master, guarding this territory. Instead, the man blocking his way was a young scholar-like figure in green, frail seeming but with an unsettling depth, like a calm sea hiding a bottomless abyss. Surprise flickered through Blood Demon, but greed won out. Kill this stranger, and the transformed 300,000-year spirit beasts inside the valley would be his. Their blood and spirit bones would break his bottleneck and lift him higher. Suppressing his shock, Blood Demon snarled theatrically, "Who are you to block our way?" Yu Qing let out a soft, mocking laugh. "You trespass in my territory and ask who I am." The phrase, "my territory," thrilled Blood Demon. "This must be Dugubo." He bared his teeth. "Your blood and qi are rich," he boasted. "You'll be a fine meal. Get out of the way or I'll refine you in them." Yu Qing looked at him like he was already dead. "Your blood and qi are explosive, and your evil qi has condensed into substance. This rank 95 was likely built on slaughtering countless lives." Blood Demon sneered with perverted pride. "To be a stepping stone for my promotion would be their honor. I won't let you live." His words barely left his mouth when the scholar suddenly vanished. Before Blood Demon could finish the name Dugu, a terrifying force slammed into his chest. Bang! He felt as if a mountain had struck him. His protective spirit power shredded like paper, his chest caved in. He was launched like a cannonball into the mountain face, carving a deep, human-shaped crater more than 100 feet away. Stunned, Blood Demon barely had time to register the impact before the Spirit Kings, Spirit Emperors, Spirit Saints, and others he had brought began to react. Too late. Yu Qing did not waste time on them. With barely a ripple of spirit power, he released an invisible, crushing pressure like an ancient mountain. The Spirit King and Spirit Emperor-level masters couldn't even scream before their bodies detonated one by one, bursting into clouds of blood mist. The Spirit Saints lasted only a breath longer. In moments, dozens had been reduced to gore and mist. Only 2 Spirit Douluo elders remained standing, trembling, pale, and frozen with terror. Their hands still gleamed with the traces of lives they'd stolen. Yu Qing's gaze swept them once, star-shattering first form. 2 punches, casual and cold, an irresistible force wrapped around the 2 elders. With howls, they were blasted away like meteors, vanishing over the horizon. The attacking group was gone, save for Blood Demon, half embedded in the rock. A roar, warped by pain and fury, erupted from the crater. The mountain split as a giant demonic shadow, dozens of feet tall, formed of viscous blood and vengeful souls, shred the rock and soared up. The Blood Demon true body spread a terrifying evil aura, its enormous blood-colored eyes fixed on Yu Qing. Yu Qing's expression didn't change. He activated another trump card. Star-burning battle method. Activate. Purple-gold flames flared from his skin like volcanic fire, transforming him into a war god. His aura surged, and he appeared before the Blood Demon true body in a flash, unleashing a flurry of fists, palms, fingers, and kicks. Each strike hit like an avalanche. The blood shadow trembled and gradually shrank as Yu Qing's flames burned at it, but it didn't suffer real damage. The surface rippled, as if every blow were dispersed or absorbed. A maniacal voice rang from within the blood shadow. "It's useless. My Blood Demon true body is immune to all physical attacks. No matter how strong you are, you can't hurt me." Yu Qing hovered, looking at the boastful shadow with cool detachment. "Immune to physical attacks? Interesting. But you've met me." A complex silver pattern flared at the center of Yu Qing's forehead, and a colossal, star-like mental force condensed into a single piercing lance. It crossed space and struck the core of the Blood Demon true body, the very place concealing the Blood Demon's true body. Head spirit bone skill, mental burst blast. A howl far shriller than before tore out. The blood shadow writhed. Fine, crackling fractures spidered across its surface like porcelain about to break. "No, impossible," Blood Demon screamed. "A mental attack? How can you have such power?" In Blood Demon's mind, only a seraphim spirit with holy purification or a rare, unpredictable mental-type spirit master could threaten his immunity. He had not expected Yu Qing. The mental pressure rolled over him like a storm, crushing his thoughts and making his soul tremble. He dropped to his knees, begging with every shred of will left. "Spare me. Have mercy, my lord. I was blind. Spare me. I'll serve you. I'll work for you. My spirit is useful." Yu Qing's voice was colder than winter. "Your slaughter is too great. Heaven's balance cannot tolerate it. I will kill you." Another mental burst blast shattered into Blood Demon's already fractured sea of consciousness. The giant Blood Demon true body could no longer hold together. It exploded into a foul rain of blood. The Blood Demon's true body fell like a broken doll, skin split open, blood pouring from his orifices, eyes vacant. His sea of consciousness had been destroyed. Yu Qing descended and walked to the corpse, examining the remains. With spirit power condensed at his fingertips, he cut through flesh and pulled out 2 spirit bones that shone an ominous, blood-red light, a 40,000-year left arm bone and a 70,000-year right leg bone. A cluster of pure purple star fire leapt from his fingers. A flick, and the fire swallowed the corpse, burning it clean in moments, so nothing remained. "Heh?" Yu Qing said coldly as he turned away. "No matter how many tricks you have, once dust is ground and the soul scattered, there is no resurrection." He flashed and headed toward the entrance of the poisonous miasma. Halfway up the mountain, at the edge of the miasma, Aru stood shielding Xiaowu and Fox Consort. Her pink eyes were solemn as she watched the battle below. The savage fluctuations and the cries had made it clear. Someone powerful had shown up to fight for them. "Mama, that bad person was so scary," Xiaowu whispered, clutching Aru's clothes. Even with her cloak, Fox Consort peered through the hood, her narrow, charming eyes tense. She could feel that the blood-colored aura belonged to someone terrifyingly strong, possibly stronger than she had been at her peak. "I don't think this will end quickly," she said. "His aura is sinister and strange. He's immune to physical attacks. A Qing is strong, but without a countermove, he could be in trouble, unless he's a mental type titled Douluo." Aru smiled gently and turned to Fox Consort. A playful, coy glint touched her features. "Since you say that, how about a bet?" "A bet?" Fox Consort raised a brow. "On what?" Aru's smile blossomed. "On your body and your heart." Fox Consort's brows knit. "Explain." Aru leaned close and lowered her voice. "If a Qing deals with that enemy easily, proving he's even stronger and more perfect than you expected, then you lose. You must give your body and your heart to a Qing without reservation." Fox Consort's eyes flickered. "And if you lose?" Aru's smile deepened as if she'd prepared the answer long ago. "If I lose, it means a Qing had trouble or didn't finish it quickly. I'll persuade a Qing to help you cultivate with everything he's got, pouring all his resources into making you 10 times, 100 times stronger than before your transformation." A hungry light passed through Fox Consort's fox-like eyes. Once a 100,000-year spirit beast hungry for power, the promise to become 10 or 100 times stronger was irresistible. After a beat, she smiled beneath her cloak, all charm. "Deal." Yu Qing, who had just used Star Flash to appear nearby and had overheard the last lines of their conversation, stopped dead. Shock and incredulity froze his features. Aru had gone home to visit and come back with a bet on body and heart. The image was so absurd and at odds with what he knew of her that he stood frozen, utterly bewildered. No matter how the wager Aru had proposed might have turned out, the one who profited most seemed to be Yu Qing himself. For a moment he felt a tangle of emotions, an amusing sense of having been neatly arranged by his wife, and beneath that, an irrepressible instinctive excitement. Clearing his throat twice, he finally broke the slightly awkward hush and stepped out from his hiding place. The moment she heard that familiar voice, Aru looked up. Her eyes brightened. There was no fear, only pure relief and tenderness. "A Qing," she breathed, soft and overflowing with joy. Yu Qing smiled gently, his gaze lingering on her. Only when he'd confirmed she was safe did he relax. If not for Xiaowu and the mysterious black-robed woman standing nearby, he might have swept a row into his arms on the spot. He added, almost offhandedly, "I've already taken care of the ones down there." "Taken care of?" Fox Consort, standing just behind A row, stiffened as if struck. Under her cloak, her face showed nothing but disbelief. That blood demon titled Douluo had been bizarre, dangerous, and unpredictable, someone who fed on slaughter and whose spirit power warped the battlefield. And Qing had simply taken care of him? How long had it been since the clash broke out below the mountain? Was it only the time it took to drink a cup of tea? What terrifying level of strength did this man possess? Aru, however, showed no surprise. She merely nodded with complete, unreserved trust and pride. "I knew you could handle it," she said fondly. Qing walked over, crouched, and ruffled Xiao Wu's little head. The small creature blinked up at him with big, curious eyes. "Hey, little rabbit," he teased. "We haven't seen each other for months. Don't you remember me?" Xiao Wu cocked her head and studied him intently. Then a pure, guileless smile lit her face. "I remember. You're my first human friend," she declared crisply. Qing laughed and tapped her smooth forehead with a finger. "No respect for your elders. From now on, you have to call me Dad." "Dad?" Xiao Wu repeated blankly, and Aro's cheeks flushed bright crimson. She gave him a teasing look, but her heart warmed. After the teasing, Qing turned his attention to the woman cloaked in black. "Aro, who is she? Shouldn't you introduce her?" he asked, curious. Aro smiled and took the woman's wrist, bringing her forward. "This is Fox Consort," she said. "She used to rule the demon fox forest inside the Stardo Great Forest, 100,000-year three-eyed demon fox. She's just transformed into human form." 100,000-year spirit beast? A three-eyed demon fox? Qing's eyes flicked over the covered face with interest. "So aside from Daming and Erming, the Stardo Great Forest still hides other ancient spirit beasts." "The forest is vast," Aru replied softly. "There are always ancient beings who choose to rest or live in seclusion." Qing recovered his composure, offering a warm, sincere smile and extending his hand. "Greetings, Lady Fox Consort. I'm Qing, Aru's husband. Welcome to the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well. I look forward to meeting you." Fox Consort hesitated. The enmity between human spirit masters and spirit beasts was a deep instinct. She was wary of human hands. But the calm clarity in Qing's eyes, his gentle manner, and the terrifying strength she had just witnessed left her no reasonable excuse to refuse. She reached out and lightly shook his hand. "I am Fox Consort," she said through the veil, her voice lazy and magnetic. At that moment, Aru's voice slipped into Fox Consort's mind with a teasing edge. "Remember our bet, Fox Consort? You lost." Fox Court's slender body went rigid, and a fierce flush spread across her face beneath the cloak. Her emotions turned messy and complicated. Generally, she had little fondness for human spirit masters, yet Qing's power had forced her respect. Oddly enough, a faint, unaccountable goodwill rose in her toward him, as if something in the dark was nudging her to accept, even admire, this human. If Qing had known, he would have smiled. The system spirit's charm halo had worked exceptionally well. Qing withdrew his hand and turned serious. "How did you get tangled up with that dog?" he asked, contempt for the blood demon coloring his tone. Aru sighed and summarized the fight. After leaving the Stardo Great Forest, the three of them had headed north through the Balak Kingdom toward the Heaven Do Empire border when they were ambushed by the blood demon. On paper, Aru was stronger, but the demon's spirit power was strange, absorbing and transforming blood and chi, and it countered her physically oriented combat style. Protecting the not fully mature Xiao Wu and the newly transformed Fox Consort forced her to fight while she retreated at top speed of the Sunset Forest, hoping to meet Qing. Hearing this, a cold light flashed in Qing's eyes. So that's it. The scoundrel deserved to die. With a wave of his hand, a soft layer of spirit power wrapped the three women. In a blink, he led them out of the poisonous miasma zone and into the bounds of the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well. The moment Fox Consort stepped into the valley, the dense, almost tangible heaven and earth origin chi astonished her. Ice and fire braided together in the air, contradictory yet perfectly balanced, and the sight stole her breath. She widened her eyes, greedily drawing in the energy-rich air as if each pore of her body cheered. This place is," she whispered, trembling. She had lived for tens of thousands of years and never seen such a miraculous cultivation haven. Aru laughed softly and patted her shoulder. "Stop gawking. This is only the outer area. If you go closer to the central spring, the energy is even more majestic, if rougher. Even I can't stay there long. How did you find such a legendary place? Fox Consort asked hoarsely. Aru turned to Yu Qing with tenderness in her eyes. I didn't find it, she said. My husband did, and he doesn't have it to himself. There's another titled Douluo called Poison who shares stewardship of this place. Poison Douluo, Fox Consort murmured. Her estimation of Yu Qing rose again. To be a partner in a place like this said much about his strength and standing. Aru then gave her a quick tour of the valley's outer rim. Surrounded by exotic blossoms, rare herbs, and thick, pure energy, Fox Consort's heart pounded. Cultivating here would shave years, maybe decades, off the time she needed to reach maturity. A 10-year recovery instead of the 20 or 30 she'd expected, an enormous opportunity. Later that evening in Yu Qing's residence, Dugubo arrived as usual, planning to ask about the energy fluctuation earlier and to congratulate Aru on returning. He pushed the door open and froze. Besides Yu Qing and Aru, there stood a little girl, Xiaowu, and the black-robed woman. The moment his senses brushed the woman, he felt the aura of a 100,000-year spirit beast, the same source as Xiaowu's, but even stranger and more alluring. Dugubo's eyelids jumped. He nearly pulled out his beard. He turned a sharp look at the composed Yu Qing that seemed to say plainly, Madman Ye, what have you done? Yu Qing gave him a calm, almost placating glance that said, Stay calm. I'll explain. Dugubo swallowed his questions and forced out a smile that was more grimace than greeting. Heh, Lady Aru, welcome back. You had a hard journey. This is a new friend? His gaze, however, kept flicking to Xiao Wu and the veiled woman, and in his mind he howled. What on earth is going on? Madman Ye, where did you go and kidnap 200,000-year spirit beasts from? Chapter 60, Reunion Night and the First Trouble with a Fox's Heart. Yu Qing called warmly to Dugubo, who still looked a little stunned. Old Poison, don't just stand there. Come in and eat. Bring Yan Yan with you. Tonight's a family dinner. Let's make it lively. Dugubo glanced at the suddenly complicated household roster. His mouth twitched, but he said nothing. He shepherded his precious granddaughter, little Dugu Yan, inside. Yu Qing took charge of the kitchen, bustling about as he laid out a lavish spread. Rare birds from the sky, spirit beasts from the land, deep-sea fish and shrimp acquired through special channels. The dishes perfumed the air and made every mouth water. Everyone gathered around the large round table that had been pushed together for the occasion. Yu Qing took the head seat. To his left sat Aru, Xiao Wu, Ling Xin, and Ling Mao, followed by the Fox Consort, still in her black robe but without her hood, her briefly revealed beauty leaving the elder fathers momentarily breathless. To his right sat Duan Xin and Zi Rui, with Father Duan and Father Zi nearby. Dugu Bo and little Dugu Yan sat directly opposite Yu Qing. Looking at this crowded, oddly harmonious group, despite the tangled backgrounds, Yu Qing felt warmth and a sense of accomplishment well up in him. He lifted his full cup, stood, and proclaimed, Aru has returned, and we've made a new friend. Our big family is finally together. To this reunion and to our future, let's drink. He drained his cup. Everyone raised theirs, those who could drink wine, those who couldn't, like Xiao Wu and Yan Yan, raising fruitus instead, and they all drank with smiles. Cheers! The party surged into high spirits. For tonight, there were no barriers of status or race, only good food, fine drink, and laughter. They sampled the delicacies Yu Qing had prepared, shared stories, and joked late into the night. The banquet lasted until late, ending only when everyone was still reluctant to leave. After sending Dugubo off, cradling the sleeping Yan Yan and still full of questions, Yu Qing went to check on Duan Xin and Zirui. He examined their conditions carefully and felt the steady, healthy life forces of the fetuses within them. Relieved, he said, It was only a little wine. No harm done. It won't affect the babies. Duan Xin pursed her lips with a hint of regret. The 100-flower brew you made is so good, yet Rui and I only had a sip. What a pity. Yu Qing stroked her hair and murmured, Be patient a little longer. When you've safely given birth, I'll brew as much as you want. Plenty for both of you. Zirui smiled and leaned her head on his shoulder. She whispered just for them, Husband, that Miss Fox Consort, she doesn't seem malicious. She's beautiful and talented. If you wish, you could take her in. She would help the yin-yang sect's future. But don't be so taken by her beauty that you neglect cultivation and the sect. Yu Qing laughed softly, pinched her cheek, and promised, Wife Rui, don't worry. You know my willpower by now. Beauty is just a passing cloud to me. Zi Rui rolled her eyes playfully, teasing, Humph. Who knows what happened in that little town outside Stardow Forest that got Shiner and me involved in such ways? Her cheeks warmed at the memory. Yu Qing's face flushed. He cleared his throat and said in mock seriousness, Ahem. Your lecture is noted. I will keep to my original resolve and not be seduced. After a bit more affectionate banter, Yu Qing tucked them in, snuffed the lamp, and slipped from the room. Back in his own chamber, he lit the spirit lamp and froze. Aru was not in her own room. She had come to his. She lay on her side beneath a thin quilt that revealed the outline of her graceful curves. Her face was faintly flushed, and her pink eyes shone with longing as she gazed at him. Aru. Yu Qing's voice went husky. He crossed the room and gently lifted the quilt. The delicate fragrance in the air stirred him, and his longing flared. Aru, tonight is our, he began, but Aru turned her head shyly and, with a seriousness that banished any playfulness, said, Wait, husband, tonight, just twice, okay? I have to go back to my room afterwards, in case Xiaowu wakes up and can't find me. Yu Qing stopped. Faced with his wife's earnest, slightly embarrassed expression, he swallowed his urge and nodded, voice soft. Okay, I'll listen to Aru. He caressed her smooth skin, savoring a touch he had been denied for months. Love and desire intertwined, but he honored his promise. They shared an intimate reunion, 2 rounds of yin-yang harmonization, after which he held her close and let the tenderness linger. As Aru rose to dress, preparing to slip back to her room, Yu Qing asked what had been on his mind. Aru, you seem to treat the fox consort differently. Why is that? She paused as she put on her clothes, moonlight pouring over her like a veil. Her eyes were gentle. The fox consort is good. If you are willing, husband, you can take her in. For your cultivation and the future of the yin-yang sect, she will be a great help. Her tone was calm and sincere, without jealousy. Yu Qing felt a complicated mix of emotions. He took her hand. Why would you say that? Having the 3 of you is already a blessing. Aru smiled, mischief in her eyes. Does husband not think the fox consort beautiful? Yu Qing pictured the fox's breathtaking face and charming bearing and admitted, she's stunning, truly breathtaking. So, Aru grinned like a fox that had stolen a treasure. Then husband can take her in at ease. This was a little surprise Aru prepared for you. She pressed a light kiss to his lips, then, light as a sprite, slipped out into the night. Yu Qing watched her go and sighed, half amused, half helpless. The hardest thing in the world is the kindness of a beautiful woman, he muttered, then sat cross-legged and began to refine the yin-yang power that surged within him. The next morning, he left his room refreshed. At the gate of his small courtyard, he spotted a slender figure sitting on a stone bench, lost in thought. It was the fox consort. She wore a pale purple dress and made no effort to hide herself. In the pale light, her profile looked almost sorrowful. The faint crease between her brows lent her a pitiable charm. She was like a painting come to life. Perhaps sensing his gaze, she turned. Seeing Yu Qing at the gate, she startled like a deer, her face flushing scarlet. She stood abruptly and, without a word, hurried back to the room where she was staying, a hint of panic in her steps, as if she'd been caught in some private act. Yu Qing scratched his cheek, puzzled. She had been composed the night before. What was with her today? He shrugged off the oddity and went to Douluo's courtyard. Douluo was out in the small yard, a tiny shovel in hand, tending his prized poisonous herbs, adding fertilizer with methodical care. His face still showed traces of last night's astonishment. Old poison, Yu Qing greeted. Douluo straightened, planted the shovel beside him, and looked Yu Qing over. In a low, serious voice, he asked, Now you can tell me, right? That black-robed girl and Xiaowu, what are they? They're auras. Yu Qing didn't plan to hide it any longer. You should have guessed Aru's true nature already, he said. Douluo's eyes gleamed. Your woman, she really is. He dropped his voice to a hiss, a transformed spirit beast in its mature form. The same source aura on Aru and Xiaowu had led him there. Yes, Yu Qing admitted. Xiaowu is her daughter. Even prepared, Douluo's mouth fell open. By the heavens, you even, with 100,000 years spirit beast. He looked at Yu Qing as if at a monster and then blurted, "Do your other two wives know?" "They know," Yu Qing said calmly. Dugubo stared into the sky for a long moment, then grit out, "Impressive." Yu Qing smiled and explained, "I told you before, the future of the yin-yang sect won't be limited to human spirit masters. Spirit beasts, especially high-level ones, are a force we must win over and unite. Aru, Xiaowu, and the fox consort are only the beginning." Dugubo mulled it over, then waved a hand, his feelings mixed. "Do as you please. You built the yin-yang sect yourself. You can run it how you like. I won't interfere, as long as you don't wreck my precious valley." "You're the vice sect master," Yu Qing said, clapping him on the shoulder. "You have the right to know and the responsibility to share the burden." Dugubo harumphed and swatted at him. "Enough of that. Don't bother me while I'm tending my treasures." Yu Qing grinned and went into Dugubo's house. Little Duguyan had just woken and was dressing. Yu Qing stepped forward, straightened her collar, and scooped her up. Under Dugubo's indignant glance, "Stealing my granddaughter again," Yu Qing left the courtyard in a bright mood.